Everybody, it's David Morgan, Environmental Planner and Conservation Agent for the Town of Arlington. The February 5th, 2026 public meeting of the Arlington Conservation Commission will be conducted in a remote format consistent with an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, which further extends certain COVID-19 measures regarding public participation in public meetings until June 30th of 2027. This meeting is being recorded, and the recording may be made publicly available. I would like to put there it is, chat, link to the new agenda and minute system for the town, where you can find all of the meeting materials there in the chat. Please note that the Zoom chat feature may be used for questions and comments that contribute to the Commission's procedures, and if it's used otherwise, may be disabled at the Chair's discretion. Public comment period will follow each hearing. The Commission encourages attendees to ask questions and offer comments during that public comment period. Chuck Gironi is the Commission Chair and facilitates tonight's meeting. Each vote taken during the meeting will be conducted with a roll call vote. So Chuck, could you please review the agenda and take attendance?
Sure, thanks, David. February 5th, 2026, and the time is 7:03. We have some administrative work to do, and we have minutes for January 22nd, review correspondence. We have a vote for chair and vice chair, some enforcement orders, certificate of compliance, and I'm going to call the rest liaison reports. We have two hearings tonight. One is for both notice of intent, and they're both for Winchester Country Club. So with that, I'm just going to turn quickly to attendance. And so Mike Gildersgame.
Present.
And Nathaniel Stevens.
Present.
Susan Chapnick.
Here.
David Kaplan.
I'm here.
Brian McBride.
I'm here.
David White.
I'm here now.
Great. And Chuck Gironi's here. Associate member Eileen Coleman.
Here.
And Sarah let us know that she cannot attend tonight's meeting. So we're going to move on and have the minutes, go right to minutes. And those are the minutes for January 22nd, 2026. David?
I opened them, but they're still loading.
Okay.
I can try sharing mine.
Oh, you have it up. It's a race. You win.
All right. You might want to, yeah, there you go.
Do you want to walk us through the changes, Jackie?
Yeah, so it looks like it's starting on page 2. Page 3. Some small changes to the wording from Nathaniel and Susan. And
Jackie, if you could scroll back up, because I did have some comments. Were they addressed?
yeah, I know there was one question for Chuck. Let me see if I can find
Yes, I
it.
didn't want to kind of go through the whole thing if we had a question that wasn't answered. I think it was near the front.
Yeah, where did that go?
It's near the beginning. There it is.
Oh.
Ask Chuck. Whoops.
Oh,
If he is okay with his wording, I'm not sure this is what he said. I was concerned with the word comfortable, but I mean, if you're okay with that paragraph, I'm fine, Chuck. This was relaying what you said about your conversation with Fish and Wildlife.
yeah. I think comfortable is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
No problem.
Right. So a few changes to the hearings, this paragraph in particular, more details. Then a few additions to this list. And that's it. Did anyone have any additional comments?
So wanted to say thank you to Nathaniel and Susan for all that extra time they've been spending. Appreciate that.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Dave.
indeed.
All right. So with that, any further comments or motions on the minutes of the 22nd?
Motion to accept as amended. Second.
Steve Kaplan and Nathaniel Stevens. Mike Gildersgame,
Yes.
Susan Chapnick,
Yes.
David White,
Yes.
Brian McBride,
Yes.
Nathaniel Stevens,
Yes.
David Kaplan,
Yes.
and Chuck Troni says yes. All right. So correspondence is available. You can reach out to David Morgan at the office, or you can look at the Conservation Commission link, and we have correspondence there. If you have any issues with that, get in touch with the office, and David will walk you through the correspondence. So first on the discussion is the vote for chair and vice chair. This is a 2-year term, and it's been me and Susan switching roles here, and we're comfortable extending that for an additional 2 years. But I think then at that point, we would like to, I'm speaking for Susan, but I'm going to say I would like to, hopefully someone else would be able to step in one of these positions so we could roll along. And typically what ends up happening is we want Susan's position, the vice chair, to be the one that someone steps into. So they have those 2 years of vice chairmanship to kind of get acquainted with the additional duties. So, Susan, do you have anything to say about this?
No, I will say I appreciate, Chuck, your willingness to step into the chair role. I think that you've grown into this position really well, and I'm just here kind of more for guidance. And I would say, just in the future, if anybody's concerned about stepping into the vice chair role, even for 2 years, I bet you we could twist Chuck's arm to stay on a little longer so you could be vice chair a little longer if you needed that extra time. It is a less of a commitment to be a vice chair than a chair, but it is a commitment, definitely time commitment. Anyway.
Yeah, maybe I'll give Nathaniel's run for the money, huh? That'll take a while.
I don't think you're gonna make what, 19
I would-
years?
I would
How long were you
Oh my
chair,
God.
Nathaniel? Was it
I
19
would
years?
curse that on you.
Yeah, I don't remember how many years that was.
I've blocked it. Yeah.
Yeah, you blocked it.
All right. So I don't know if this needs to be done one at a time. I mean, maybe Nathaniel has an opinion, one at a time or both at the same time would be
Let's do a
fine.
slate. Let's vote a slate, and I appreciate your support, Conservation Commissioners. As does Chuck, I'm sure.
Okay, so I'll just go and say, can I get a motion for chair and vice chair as presented on the agenda?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Mike Gildersgame.
Oh, Brian.
Brian McBride.
Oh, I saw Mike's hand go up. Sorry, Brian.
Oh, that's okay.
Kinda-
Our voices might be similar. I don't know.
Brian beat me
Brian
to.
McBride. Okay, so Mike Gildersgame, you can start us off.
Yes, I think it's a great idea.
Okay, and David White?
Yes. Thank you all.
Yeah. And David Kaplan.
Yes, you have our utmost confidence and support, and please consider staying on longer.
David McBride. Brian McBride.
Yes, with much gratitude. Really appreciated.
Let's see. I said Mike Gillisgame, right? So Nathaniel Stevens
Yes, and echoing what Brian and David Kaplan and David said.
and Susan Chapnick.
Yes.
And Chuck Tironi says yes too. And I want to say that, you never know how it's coming across with the other commissioners. And I appreciate your support and thank you. All right, moving right along, we're gonna talk about an enforcement order. I know that Al Gala's here, so I'm hoping he's here for this. And so the enforcement order is for 66 and 66R Dudley Street and 993 Mass Ave. And Al is come in the last couple of meetings and really moved this along. So I'm going to turn it over to Al, but just ask him to introduce himself for the record and bring us up to date since the last time we talked. Thanks, Al.
All right. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Al Gala from Gala, Simon and Associates to represent SNR Realty Trust for the property at 66 Dudley Street. We had a meeting on January 8th in which I presented a preliminary plan and discussed with the commission what we were proposing to do. And basically the focus is to protect the site trees, which are of large magnitude. And we also proposed a couple of gabion walls and to remove fill from the site. Since that meeting, I had the opportunity to communicate with the Millbrook Condo Association, send them the plan. They actually reviewed a revised plan, which I would like to show you if you allow me to share the screen.
Yeah, please.
Share, here we go. I'm getting better at this, I'm glad. So this plan, what we've done is basically realizing that the commission was looking for additional flood storage and removal of fill, but with the same intent of preserving the trees on the site. This gabion wall, the one on the left, stayed exactly as it was proposed. This one, I rotated a majority of the wall towards the drainage easement, leaving a few feet of distance from it. That allowed us to expand this area of planting and also of flood storage. Additionally, we already had proposed this fence, which is a dark line, but we're also proposing an additional wood fence from the edge of the gabions to the edge of the easement. So we would like to have this easement open, it's 10 foot, so the town can have access to the drainage structures or if they need to repair anything here. One concern from the Millbrook Condo Association is who is going to maintain these gabion walls and who's going to maintain the fences. So I spoke with our clients and they will take the responsibility of maintenance of the gabion walls and as well as the fences. So this is our latest plan. The Millbrook Condo Association likes the plan. And I'm hoping the commission is satisfied with this plan. If so, we would like to move on to the next step, which would be to hand over the plan to our associate a wetlands person to prepare a planting plan. And from our part, we also would have to add a detail for the gabion walls and put some erosion control measures on the plan. And that would be our approach to present the final plan to the commission, what we would think would be the final plan at the next upcoming meeting. Not the next one. We actually would like to be on the agenda just in about a month from now to allow my clients to come back from out of the country. So that's where we are today.
All right, thanks. So one of the questions I thought about is little notes on the plan. I don't know if you have to do notes or some sort of more formal agreement between you or the applicant, 66R and 993, just letting, you know, for me, it would be the administrator know in future years whose responsibility it is, because I just don't want them to look at the property lines and say, hey, 993, you're supposed to take care of this. So is that going to be addressed in future iterations of the plan?
I think we can put a note on the plan to that effect, but I think there actually has to be some kind of a document besides the plan out of an agreement between the two parties.
Since that's the case, I think that we'd want to add that to our list of deliverables for the next meeting or the next time you get here. So we also can look at that agreed upon document.
Okay.
All right,
Absolutely.
moving along, I see that David Kaplan has his hand up. So I'm going to go with David first.
Well, thank you, Chuck. Not sure the order either, but so just refresh my memory, Al. So that the called out estimated FEMA 100-year flood elevation at 73.1, that buffer around, that was from the GIS, right? And we're to assume that that line is more accurately just wherever we see the 73.1 contours. We should follow that, correct?
That is correct. So what I have here is the old line, and if we look closely, where it hits is 73 and change right there.
Mhm.
I also looked at the flow profile, a detailed study of the brook, and that's what I came up with also 73.1.
Right.
So that's, but
Okay.
let me just say that this is no longer the case, that the water actually is ponding up over here on this side because of the wall that's there,
Right.
and it goes out.
Okay. Thank you for that. Couple more quick ones. The proposed wood fence, again, can you just remind me is that just more of the property line delineation, or is that serving another purpose?
It serves the purpose of preventing snowplows from pushing snow onto the brook. So it's a good barrier. We can have it 4-foot height or 6 feet high, whichever the commission will like. But the main purpose is really to prevent snow from going into the brook.
Okay, great. And that's have we seen a detail of it? Is there an opening? I know there's minimum openings at the bottom of fences for wildlife passage.
I was thinking 6 inches would be appropriate, but if the commission thinks we should have more, certainly can do that, and we'll have a detail on the plan for that too.
All right. And that's so it's not like a post and rail fence. This will be a closed slat sort of fence with minimal view, I guess, or
Yes.
opportunities.
Yes.
Okay.
It'll be a solid fence, basically.
Solid. Okay. Yeah, thank you. I couldn't find the words. So for the easement too, for that fence, if it's serving a purpose and there's, plowing in that area where the opening is, did the property owner consider some type of gate that could open up in the event that the city did need to access the easement, therefore having a more consistent barrier and less opportunity for plowing snow into the resource?
No, I haven't thought about a gate, but I don't think we really want to have anything in the path, of the town getting a car, a truck up there nearby. I would just leave it open. I mean, usually we don't want to put anything on an easement.
Right. Yeah, that's understood. And I also remember a comment too from last meeting about the grass slope down to the planted area, and I think there was a little bit
Yes.
of trepidation on that being open and accessible? Was there any kind of, did you look at any kind of screening or denser plantings that would kind of prohibit access, did you take that into consideration?
I'm gonna, so we're gonna address that with the planting plan. There was some concern about the stability of this slope. It's a 2-to-1 slope. I mean, construction-wise, it will probably be covered with some jute matting until it establishes itself. But what you're talking about here is in the upper portion to perhaps put some kind of bushes or some vegetated barrier. Is that what that's what I'm understanding? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought. So yeah, I mean, if that's, I'm not sure if this plan is still in the works, but yeah, it'd be good to see that.
It is in the works, and but the planting plan will show that. And my thinking is between the contour 78 and the 77, right in this band right there.
Okay, great. Thanks, Al. That's all I have.
Sorry, Susan Chapnick was next.
I love when the other commissioners ask all my questions, then I don't have to follow up too much. So thank you, Dave Morgan. I wanted to thank Al. This is great. I see you put thought into changing this and making it more in line with what the commission had asked for in our last meeting in January. So that I appreciate that. I am a little concerned about the easement as well as Dave Kaplan, just because I do understand the idea of nothing over an easement. However, if we are plowing in this area and that fence you're proposing is a reminder and a preventative measure to preventing the snow from getting in there, I'm a little concerned about plowing there. I don't know if maybe that can get handled with an operation and maintenance plan, which I would like to see for this property as well. I know you talked about a maintenance agreement for the Gabion walls and maybe a maintenance agreement for maintaining the fence for where's snow going to go, snow plowing procedures, that kind of thing. So maybe an operation and maintenance plan that would be formalized and agreed to in some kind of a legal document by the owners of 66 and 66R would ease my mind about that. And I'm looking forward to seeing the planting plan filled out, like you discussed. Thank you.
Can I just add?
Oh, sure.
On this opening here, one thought that I'm having is that we could plant bushes over here. Just plant bushes, small bushes that would also keep the snow out, but also not prevent maintenance from the town.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Plus, it would give a little more vegetation. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nathaniel Stevens.
Thanks, Chuck. Thanks, Al. This plan definitely looks steps in the right direction. I think we're almost there. I guess, can you just tell me how wide the town's easement is? I can't, is it 10 feet? Is that what the plan says?
It is 10 feet. Yes.
Okay, all right. Because I guess I like the idea that David Kaplan had of maybe, I don't know if I guess 10 feet is kind of wide for a swing fence, that would be mounted. The gate, essentially gate type of gate fence would be mounted on the 66 outside the easement, and then the gate could swing over it and connect to the other side. So that was what I was thinking, but 10 feet is kind of long on that. I agree with the others that I think we do need an actual easement granted by the condo association to the owners of 66R to do the maintenance, to maintain this plan. I would caution about putting all the specifics about an operation maintenance plan in that easement in case it needs to be changed, but there could be language just to the effect of they grant their permission to they grant the owners of 66R permission to maintain it per this plan and per any other requirements of the Conservation Commission. So I would like to see really ultimately a recorded easement before we do a final sign off, but maybe even a draft as we move forward. That's it. Thanks.
Just
Sure, Al, go
Sure.
ahead.
Thank you. Just to get clarification, it'll be I can put it on the plan to a proposed easement for maintenance around these areas here. Is that what the commission is looking for, or is it actually a written document?
I think we need a written document because this plan won't be recorded. I think the owners, we need something on notice in case a condo association sells the land or something that, this is going to stay. So yeah, it will be a separate legal document, an easement document that will be recorded at the registry of the land court that would formalize the agreement of the condo association to allow the 66R folks, owners, to maintain that.
Thank you.
We have Brian McBride.
Yes, and I'll echo the others, Al. This is great progress, and so glad you're guiding us in the right direction here. Just maybe a kind of technical question that others may already know the answer to, but looking at the drawing, maybe you could help me interpret. At what level does the planted area flood? Like how much higher than the marked Millbrook height does the river have to rise in order for that section to flood? And the second related question, you mentioned the puddling on the neighbor's yard. Will this, do you anticipate that this change here will help or hinder or change their experience with the river in any way?
Okay, well, to the first question, the bank here is at elevation 75, and the bottom what we're proposing is at 72.8 because we want to get lower. We want to get low to create some flood storage. So we are creating the flood storage. That's why I have to go low, and this elevation is going to be the same elevation as the adjacent property. Now this area is flooding here. This will flood out. And I also have a high point over here of 74.5. So I'm bringing down this a little bit, a few inches lower. So it doesn't build up as much on the adjacent property. But what you will see is water on both sides. That's what eventually you'll see. In large storms, it will just build up and come out at 74.5. So I don't think you're going to see this dry for this in large events, no.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. I had a couple questions, Al. When I first went out there, we had talked about a vegetated buffer strip, which in my mind would be located probably from the Gabion Wall all the way to the end of the, maybe just in back of the, I think I'm going to call one of those things a shed. So heading screen left, yeah. So over there, do we still have that in this plan? Are we proposing 5 or 10-foot buffer strip?
I'm not proposing that on this plan. No, I mean we're basically kind of isolating ourselves with these fences. We're just isolating from the brook.
Sure. Well, the point wasn't to isolate; it was to restore, and so. This area next to the bank and just above the bank is, important habitat. And I think it would align pretty good with Nathaniel, David, and Susan's question about how do we stop snow from going through that gap. And so if it was a vegetated buffer strip, which, this might be something where you've come in on this project late, but it was something that was pretty much always talked about. So that raised area that would have some native plants in it, which would provide habitat, escape cover, overwintering, and bank stabilization, I believe is very important. And another thing that I want to make sure is that everyone notices that the grade is heading from the street towards the brook. And there's going to be a 6 inch gap underneath the brook. So we want to at least try to filter some of that out, slow it down, take the sediments out of it. And I think the vegetated buffer strip would do all that. So I want to hear from commissioners. I'm not sure. Well, I'm actually sure it's needed, but let's hear what commissioners say. Nathaniel Stevens?
Thanks, Chuck. On that, I do recall we discussed a buffer strip, but to help me talk about it more, Al, can you point out where the existing chain link fence is, or existing fence that's up? If you know, is it about where the proposed wood fence is?
I
Or
think it's further down here, further down the bank.
But is it the same length?
Oh, the same length? Yeah, I believe so. I think it starts
Okay.
over here and it goes around. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It is open over here. Yeah, it's still,
Right.
you know.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm remembering, because I kind of remember standing sort of on the easement about where the arrow is for the gabion wall and discussing having the vegetated buffer enhanced more where the second fence is going to be in that area. I don't recall us putting.
Where's that area? Al, can you show?
That would be this area here,
There's
right?
area, yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit to the right, a smidge towards the easement, but from around there, that area
So
was
that-
going to be more vegetated. But there wasn't. I recall that the fence was just going to be replaced, and then after that, the existing fence was going to be repaired. Then the vegetated area and enhanced planting area would be. It's so narrowed down by that 1-story building and approaching the shed that there wasn't really much room to plant anything. The bank is so steep there, really, as a practical matter, you couldn't do anything.
Well, let me see if I can nudge your recollection. So it also had to do with the cars and trucks and material being parked right up against the bank and the fence that was there, the chain link fence, and then so we wanted to back everything up. I don't know how far it went. My recollection was we talked about all the way down to the only opening that I remember, which was down by that shed. Yeah. And so that was the first attempt at solving this, replant the bank. But we'll take
maybe David Morgan remembers. Yeah, I think the last time, I'm trying to remember, David and I have been out there twice, I think, since I was out there with you, maybe. So maybe the conversation evolved and we just dropped that point. I just don't remember.
Right. Can I just say something? Commissioners mentioned earlier, I mean, I've talked about putting some vegetation here. I mean, we can certainly expand it through here up to this point, like this whole area here provides some vegetation. I'm under the impression and as you mentioned, I'm come in a little bit late on this, but I think my client already had planted some bushes here or some plants that the commission requested, but I'm not sure.
I think so.
In this area.
David Morgan can probably help, but that I kind of remember that a little bit, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I do remember that they put in fresh mulch and maybe installed a couple of plants. You know, there weren't anything beneficial. So I think whatever you hand to the wetlands consultant will be more appropriate for that area. One thing I wanted to point out, that dot where your cursor is at the end of the easement, that's a tree that the owners planted, right? I think that's the location. I remember they have.
It is a tree. It's a small tree. Yes, it's a 7-inch diameter. There's a name for that tree.
Is it evergreen? Is it the evergreen? I think.
Yes, it is an evergreen.
Yeah. She had a name for it. Evelyn had a name for it.
As I remember, that was planted by their son, or is like a tree dedicated to their son. So just out of decency, I would say let's plant around and allow that gap to remain. All considerations about plowing and everything included in my recommendation there, because they're not going to want to plow through their son's tree. And then if they
That
have
is
a
true.
buffer strip, you know, like Chuck is suggesting, from the tree up to the gabion wall, all the better to
Very-
minimize the runoff and other impacts. So just wanted to call that to your attention.
I'm not done with this, but Susan, go ahead.
Thanks, Chuck. Just the talk of the fence. Now I'm confused. So is the chain link fence getting removed? Because I don't think we want two fences parallel to each other.
Yes, it would.
Yeah,
It would.
it
Yes.
would. Okay.
And I'm looking at the CAD drawing here. I see these little X's. That means is the fence, the chain link fence right there. Goes up there. So it has to be removed. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. And I do recall, Chuck and Nathaniel, that we did ask for some planting by the bank here, where the fence was, and there was some moderate planting done, I think in 2024, maybe. I mean, this has been going on a long time. So when we asked them to remove debris and remains of artificial turf carpet and machinery from the resource area,
Okay.
for what that's worth.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Sure. Nathaniel, are you going to talk?
No, thanks. I was just thanking Susan for
Clearing
refreshing.
the stage. Sure. So
Yep.
yeah, I still have the same concerns. I think we're talking about important habitat area. We're talking about the bank. This is, for all intensive purposes, a construction site 24/7. This is where the trucks are parked. The approach is gravel. The runoff is likely to pick up sediment and go in there. So I do think a vegetated buffer strip would stop the plowing from going through. I don't feel that I'm restricted from asking for this, because if I don't ask for it, I believe that we'll have stockpile areas right up against the fence in future years, whether it's in the next 2 or 3 or 4, but at some point we're going to have trucks and whatnot parked there. And so that may destabilize the bank. So I want to do the best improvement that we can do while this is in front of us, because it's likely to be the only time we see this again, hopefully. And so a vegetated buffer strip that's required in perpetuity, and I understand that there was this area that you needed to squeeze between the shed and the bank to get around the other side of the house. I would agree that we don't need that. Maybe it's not 10 feet wide, but it will keep material away from the bank. It will create escape cover. It will be more habitat. I think it's, and it'll prevent the runoff from going straight into the stream, at least at the drainage easement. So I guess that's my last shot at it. Sorry, Mike Gilliston has his hand up.
Yes, regarding sediment and habitat, I'm wondering if it would make sense to, in addition to putting vegetation in that 10-foot easement area, to bring it also along the large or the long piece of fence, if we have plantings in front of that fence as well.
Yeah, that's actually where I was talking about, running along the stream, along the fence, creating a natural buffer. So yes, I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
That's where we need and go down stream as far as you can go until it may prevent someone from bringing material around the back, which is what we saw on the site visits.
Can I get clarification on something? We're talking about this area behind the fence, correct? Over here, planting this.
I'm talking about the area in front of the fence, and
We're talking about here.
Mike
This area.
Gildersleeve is talking about.
Yeah, I'm
Where
talking
Mike-
about that area along the long fence on the
This one?
upstream side, yeah, or on the upbank side. Yeah,
Are you on the upland
This side.
side or you on the stream side?
not stream side on the front.
Okay.
No, on the
Okay.
other side of the fence.
On the other side, in here. This
Yeah, I
side.
was thinking
Okay.
plant along there because you're gonna have a gap under the fence anyway. But if you have vegetation there, it'll create a little habitat and also might prevent sediment from getting down to the stream.
I'm not thinking, you know, of restricting movement in here too much. How wide was the commission thinking? I don't think 10 feet is not, is quite a bit.
I was just thinking 4 feet or 3 feet, just enough to plant some shrubs and other vegetation. I don't know.
Would the commission be interested also in having us plant on this side here?
So why don't we just say that that's something that's needed? You're gonna have, this is something for your environmental
Okay.
person to do. I wanted 10 feet. Others might be agreed to less. I think 5 is a happy medium, but we're not designing it. So
Yeah.
at most it needs to be big enough to establish a green area that will stay there for a while and keep the sediment from going into the stream. And I see that David Morgan has his hand up.
I have a question for Al, but at first on this question of the buffer zone, or buffer strip, I should say. All this while I was thinking that we were talking between top of bank, that's labeled there, and the fences. And given that amount of area, you know, bank being the first observable break in the elevation, we can assume and also remember from site visits that a lot of that area is planted with ornamentals and so forth, including that evergreen that we discussed just a few minutes ago. So I think there's ample planting area behind the fences. And to Nathaniel's point, it's true that it narrows as you get screen right, you know, towards the shed, and the bank you can see gets closer to the fence there, so it'll thin out. But I think that's a decent planting area behind the fence to, you know, prevent sediment and runoff from impacting the brook. I certainly wouldn't disagree with Chuck about or Mike about putting some in front of the fence, but I would think that would need protection, and that would probably mean something like a berm to prevent trucks from driving.
You don't have to design it, David.
Well, I'm not trying to design it. I'm thinking about the stormwater impact of putting something in front of the fence, which would direct flow in the direction of the shed. And then you got a different problem when it breaks out into the brook past the point of the fence. That's already a very eroded area on this site because it is a low point and it's receiving a bunch of surface flow. So I would just be concerned that, like, if we're not letting it go under the fence or through the easement, then it's going to wind up at that location instead.
So how are you preventing trucks and storage from being put in front with this idea that it already exists?
So that brings me to my next question. What's happening with that brick patio that was pre-existing? Like, you've got fencing on top of it now and gabion baskets and you're excavating, etc., at least parts of it, but there is like sort of a triangular shape from the easement to the gabion baskets and then down to the fence. My thought being that if that's going away in its entirety, then you're not going to have the parking in that location because that was installed for the purpose of storing equipment.
You're not going to have parking in that location unless there's a note on the plan and a restriction in the order of conditions. So this is not going to be a site that another step would be to define what this area is going to be between I guess that's an erosion control line and the fence. And so for me, I still think I want to push them back because the town can't get to every spot and do monitoring. So the best we can do here tonight, and you cannot convince me that less is more. So a 5 foot to 3 foot vegetated buffer strip in front of the fence, and then leave it up to the environmental scientist or whoever the arborist is, or can look at that and decide whether we're going to need some sort of section to fix, stormwater. I mean, that seems like it needs to be thought about also, what happens to the stormwater.
All right, so I guess I'll just bear that in mind as you're designing. The question about the brick patio still open, so could you speak to what's happening with the remainder of the patio?
Well, according to what we have right now is to just leave it in place. We would be removing this portion of it here. We're not planning to remove this. But as was mentioned, I mean, some of this will be probably taken up by some vegetated buffer, 3 foot wide, perhaps. But we're not planning to take any more out, unless we really have to do it. I don't see much of a point in doing it, but the grades here will remain the same, and the water would be allowed to go underneath the fence. And my thinking too is to put some vegetated berm on this side. So you have some on the front, some on the back. We'll do some on this area here too. As was mentioned before, this is kind of narrow. Maybe something can be done, but I'll leave that up to the wetlands person.
All right, thanks, Al. I have one suggestion, and just will offer a reminder to the commission that the violation included addition of impervious surface, including the patio, and the conversion of the area directly to screen left of number 66 there. That's now a brick parking lot itself. So bear that in mind as you consider. My suggestion for, protecting plantings in front of the fence, maybe there's, a granite post or similar, so that there's an obstruction. Just a thought.
No, David, that was, I mean, Al, I hope you're taking notes. All those things need to be considered.
I am taking
this
notes.
plan. Yeah, thank
Yes,
you.
absolutely.
Nathaniel Stevens?
Thanks. Al, I don't know if you can measure quickly, but I'm just wondering what the distance is between the house, or the one-story building, and the fence at that closest corner. Yeah, from that corner to the fence, and that corner really to the fence. I recall that being smaller than it looks on the plan.
Okay, I have a plan here. I can.
Oh, okay.
That number, it looks like 16 feet.
16 feet. Okay.
Yeah.
It did get narrowed there. Yeah, my recollection of the one or two conversations with the property owners was there was no mention, they were just going to do the fence and not the planting. So I think it's going to come as a new ask to them. So just a heads up to folks. One thought that, sort of switching gears, and maybe it is related, is move that planting area over to where the brick patio is next to the Gabion wall, and have the mitigation planting area there. I don't know if that's going to serve all the purposes that Chuck had outlined in terms of trying to capture the stormwater coming down the site, but I don't know. It would be a more wildlife habitat, because it'd be connected with be more congregated rather than just a linear strip. But I realize it might have less of a stormwater function. So just another thought.
All right. Brian McBride.
You're muted, Brian.
Yeah, just sort of turning over in my head, what is enough? We've sort of had so many zigzags in this project. I sort of feel just it's a substantial construction project we're asking the owner to do on the left side, and I'm getting the feeling from Al that planting along the bank behind the fence may be considered onerous. Maybe a compromise would be planting that triangular area near the brook, and it may not be 100% what one would ideally like, but maybe it's a compromise given the substantial nature of the work they're doing in the other part of the property. Just my opinion.
Okay. I don't know what to take. It seems like we don't have an agreement on where to go. I feel very strongly about what I said, even though Nathaniel came up with a compromise. I guess we all see it our own way. So anyone, Nathaniel, how do we go from here?
I don't know. I guess we'll see what others think. I just think that again, I don't know. When I was out in the field with talking to the owners, several times I did try to make it clear to them that I was not speaking for the commission. David Morgan and I weren't, or I think when the four of us were out there the first time I was out there, now 4 years ago, 3 years ago. But so it's too bad that they're not here to have this discussion. But I do think that they will feel that that's a very narrow area to get access to the shed where that 16-foot dimension is. And they do use that area quite a bit. So to have a 5-foot planting area in front of the fence will, be a significant change to the ability of them to use their property and what was discussed.
Sure, well, that's designing, and we're all not there. So if we say, hey,
Right.
the wetland scientist comes up with a plan, the plan is that this little corner next to the gabion wall that needs to be filled out more. It sounded like a few this is how I would say it. We talked about that, so you fill that out more. There's a desire to have some vegetation in front of the fence, but also a desire not to impede any kind of service area. So it stops somewhere in front of it, but not so far in front of it that it looks like you're not doing what we asked. So, and this is why you get paid the big bucks, Al. So you take that to the wetland scientist and you come back with a plan, and we all talk about it again. But I think that's what you're going to get from the commission tonight, except for what Susan and David Kaplan's going to say. So I don't know who went first. I'm going to go with Susan.
And it was David.
Okay.
Well,
He's-
thank you, Susan. Yeah, I guess after all the conversation, I guess what Al comes back with next time, I just like to see how the proposal does systematically address what was spelled out in the enforcement order and how it mitigates that. I was thumbing through the near map aerial photos and historically, and it does seem that most of the new development that wasn't permitted encompasses that brick patio area. And there has been a lot of disturbance or historic disturbance and development between the building that's marked 1 story to that one, and then south to the fence line. So I guess my preference, I guess, would be to see a plan that comes back that has more robust planting to the left of that easement, connecting to the gabion wall, either, in front of and behind the fence, and for the property owner to consider some planting, behind that proposed wood fence to help with any kind of stormwater runoff over that bank and to stabilize it a little bit from the sheet flow. So that'd be my preference. But again, I think ultimately, we'd just like to see the final plan systematically address the issues in the enforcement order. Thank you.
Yeah, Susan.
Sorry, I was muted. I did find the sketch, if you want me to put it up, from 2024, where we did identify planting in the area that Chuck is talking about. We didn't say if it was in front or behind the fence, but we were just identifying. This was what Nathaniel put together, kind of a quick sketch. If you want to share it, or I can just email it again. It should be in
No,
the
just put it
project
up for a
files.
second if it's a quick second, because I just think it's really in Al's hands at this point. We're still at
Yeah,
loggerheads
sure.
with where we're going.
Okay. Can I share?
I'm out. Let's-
Um,
I think I can. Do you see it?
Yeah,
Yes.
there you
Yeah.
go.
Okay, so the blue areas were, I think we were talking about planting, in the red areas were where we were talking about there was disturbance. I didn't pull up the meeting minutes from this meeting. I don't seem to, there must be, let's see, July 11th, 24. I could try to pull those up, but this has been going on so long. I fear that we've forgotten some of the things that we've said.
so
Yes.
the blue
I'll
area
admit
is the
that.
planting, or the red
Yeah.
area was the planting. Which was it, Susan?
I thought it was the blue area, but and the
That
red
would
area
that
was
would be my
compensatory flood
recollection.
storage.
I think we
Yeah.
went out there with the with an
Yeah.
idea that maybe we could just plant our way out of this.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's enough. Let's just conclude this.
Let me stop
I
sharing.
I appreciate what David
Yeah.
Kaplan said, but I don't think planting behind the fence addresses future storage area and cars and material parked there. When we were there, there were plows just parked there all summer, kind of right up against the bank, and some other things. This is an active site. This guy's a landscaper. I think there's going to be things around, so I'm just trying to create a buffer. So I'm still stuck where I want to be, which is just some sort of buffer in front to keep the front of those trucks back a bit, and it would also stop the sediment from going through. But I'm just going to say to Al that again, we're gonna just leave this up to you. You've heard all of this. Like to see a plan that has a vegetated buffer strip, and you'd have to justify it because of all the different opinions on this commission. And maybe you might even have to change it when you come back. So that's it. So as I understand it, you want to be continued for a month. That would be
Yes.
March 5th. And so I heard yes. So can I get a motion to continue this item to March 5th?
So moved.
That was Nathaniel Stevens, second.
Second.
Yeah, Mike Gildersleeve. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Okay. And so we have Susan Chapnick
Yes.
and David White,
Yes.
David Kaplan,
Yes.
Brian McBride,
Yes.
Mike Gildersleeve,
Yes.
and Nathaniel Stevens,
Yes.
and Chuck Teroni says yes. All right, Al, appreciate you taking the time, and we'll see you in a month.
Yes, I just want to thank the commissioners for taking the time to go over the plan and for offering all the great ideas that we just discussed. And I'll take them into account and come back with a plan that hopefully will be amenable to you.
Sounds
Okay.
good. We appreciate
Well,
it.
you're actually doing a really
Yeah,
good job.
you're
and
getting close.
We're
Very
close.
appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Have a good night.
Thanks, Al.
Okay, Jackie and David Morgan, this goes on the agenda and stays on the agenda. And I want to see underneath that everyone knows that that this is being continued until March 5th at the applicant's request. So it'll be on the next agenda, even though we're not going to talk about it. And so that's how we're going to set up the agenda moving forward. So not wondering, or commissioners are not wondering when the next time we'll see something. So I'm going to go on to the next item, which is Milton Street. So it's 102 through 104 Milton Street, a request for a certificate of compliance. And I know that this is an LEC project, and I see Rich Kirby here. So I think the best way to do this is to have Rich introduce himself for the record and bring the commission up to date with this request for compliance. And when I looked at the information, it looked like it had come in front of the commission before because I saw a date of 2022. So maybe you can explain that to me and the commission also, Rich.
Sure. Good evening, Rich Kirby from LEC Environmental. With me this evening is also Stefan Bilhars, who was the applicant. He's was the proponent. The property has since been sold to the homeowners that live there now. But yeah, I think likely what happened is Stefan applied for the certificate of compliance back in 2022. Some towns do partial certificates of compliance. We understand Arlington does not, until the monitoring period for the plantings has been completed. So that has since happened. We've monitored the plantings. We submitted our memorandum with photographs and receipts documenting everything is up to snuff, if you will, with respect to the plantings. And so I think we were proceeding now with the certificate of compliance request. I have the plans on my screen. This is the as-built plan that was submitted. It shows all of the correct construction for the patios, the permeable pavers, the flood vents, etc. And Stefan and Albert had installed, Albert Asiantis, who's Stefan's business partner. They had installed a vinyl fence around the property when they had, as they were completing construction, and that David noted that that was not in the notice of intent application or on the approved plans. And looking back, he is correct. There was a chain link fence surrounding the property, and Stefan and Albert simply replaced it with a polyvinyl fence. This is the mitigation plan here that was submitted with this project, and it shows all of the plantings, but does not, at least certainly doesn't indicate a fence. So we had talked a little bit about that. Here's our mitigation memorandum. Here are some photographs of the plantings in the back there, and of course the polyvinyl fence. To provide a little bit of context, this site is in the flood zone, near the outer edge of the flood zone. It's about 1,200 feet from Alewife Brook. The flood zone elevation here is roughly 7. Here we have the USGS map with the distance to Alewife Brook. Here's a scale for context. And of course, the aerial image, this is a different scale. One is just 200 feet. So the brook is way down here because you can see all the development separating the brook from the actual project location. We had talked with David about that. And then if the commission recalls, we had also worked with the commission on getting permits for 2 other projects with Stefan and Albert, namely 14 and 16 Edith Street, and then more recently 51 Birch Street. Both of those sites were also in the floodplain, and those plans actually showed a proposed polyvinyl fence, perimeter fence around the property. And the commission had approved it. So while David is right, the notice of intent and the plans for Milton Street do not include the perimeter fence, it is replacing a chain link fence that was there, and we're hoping that it's a relatively minor thing, considering the commission has approved such fences on other projects in the floodplain since this permit was issued. I do have the details for Edith Street and Birch Street, if you'd like me to get into that as well, but thought I would start the conversation off there.
Yeah. Maybe we don't have to get into some other projects. But anything from the commission? I have a few questions, but I just want to see if there's any questions first. So I don't see any hands. So I'm looking at the certificate of compliance checklist. It looks like it's dated it's either 1/18 or 7/18. So is it 1 or 7/18? Anybody?
Stefan, you might have to chime in there because Stefan's outfit
Well, I think
completed.
this is something that our staff fills out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the request.
So all right, let's say it's 7. I'm going to say it's 7. So this wasn't reviewed just before this meeting. No one has gone out there in 7 months, 6 months to review this. David Morgan.
We have not.
Okay. So that was my first question. And then it says on this checklist, it says 3 years moratorium or monitoring. Yeah, this is pretty small, so sorry about that. And it says non-compliant, but we're over. How did we get there? Are we 3 years now? Because the planting had gone in, or we're still a little shy of planting?
We're good on planting.
We're good on planting. So this is in compliance that we've gone 3 years.
Yes.
Okay. And then it says driveway is slightly larger than the approved plan. Could you let us know what slightly means and numbers, like ½ inch to 2 feet along the entire length? I mean, it doesn't really let us understand where the problem is, what end or what side.
Jackie, do you recall details about that one? I believe you did the site visit for this.
Yeah, I think it looked minimally larger than the plan, but I don't remember exactly how much. I have the photos here if you want to see the photos from my site visit.
But as we're all doing this all the time, you're not concerned about the amount that it was over the approved amount that we conditioned. So in your opinion, since you saw it, is this an issue we have to pick up and discuss, or is it something we should just understand that these things happen during construction?
Yeah, I didn't think it was a significant enough issue. I did note there was an additional planted area in the back, and then there was also a fence going across the middle of the yard.
Yeah, and it sounds like from Rich Kirby's description that we never addressed the fence. So it was just basically swapped out with an existing chain link fence. I think that my initial concern would be, do we have some sort of wildlife access gaps in these fences, and any pictures of those? Those are the only pictures that I think that we would need to see, and I know that there's snow out there now. So those were really my questions, because I know that if we permitted a fence, we would have asked for that.
Right.
And Rich, when we spoke, we talked about there being a gap at the bottom of the fence, right? There, as I remember, there's sort of mulch at the
Yeah, if I
bottom of
could,
the
I'll
fence.
share my screen again. I have some photographs from the restoration monitoring or the planting monitoring. It's hard to see. The gaps seem to be intermittent because there's mulch in the landscape bed, but you can see, and certainly mulch is easy enough for any critters to dig through and make a path. But you can see some daylight shining through the fence there and back here in the corners. So I mean, we're in a pretty densely developed area. We're talking about squirrels and chipmunks for the most part. Obviously, chipmunk, or rather squirrels can get over. Be very easy for chipmunks to get under that fence. I don't think we're having, turtles nesting in these backyards or anything like that. But I defer to the commission on it.
Sure. And we're going to go right to Nathaniel Stevens.
Thanks. Yeah, along those lines, I was also thinking not so much of wildlife maybe for the reasons Rich said, but floodplain. Just make sure some water can get under there. We're not in the velocity zone. Looks like
No.
we're on the edge of the floodplain, but I think there's some sunlight there on the right, so it's not blocking too much flood
Yeah, and I think in this area, there's so much structure between the river and this lot that when this site does, or when it will experience floodwater, I really think it's going to be a rising and lowering. I don't think we're going to have, water moving in like a wave
Right,
through the
right,
backyard.
right.
So I fully anticipate, first of all, if there was any flood level differentiation from one side of the fence to the other, these fences are so fragile, delicate. I'm not sure what word you'd use, but I imagine it would get pushed right over. We're not talking about, a solid wooden fence or, anything like that. That's my opinion. I think the floodwater would equalize on either side.
All right,
Thanks.
I'm going to go to David Morgan. And it looks like David has a picture.
David, you're muted.
Thank you.
And-
Rich was sharing the map from the flood map that was from 2010. I think there's a previously approved one. And so they got updated, as you might remember, in the last year. And so now the floodplain ends about halfway through the property. You can see here the fenced areas
Oh, okay, yeah.
in the back. And so it's receded considerably from
Mhm.
the previous modeling. And I think with this new information, we're talking about a difference of inches rather than feet in elevation change. And so that area that's underneath the fence might be sufficient, even if there is, water flowing, to allow just that amount to go through. So, when Rich and I spoke, the first thought we had was like, this is so at the edge that probably it's going to be from deposition, and the flooding will result from, water coming down, the groundwater being so high that it starts to accumulate. That's likely what will happen. Seeing this, I think that even if there is water coming up from Alewife and rising slowly, you're going to allow a sufficient amount of it to enter that small area that the fences won't have a significant impact on changing where the water goes.
Thanks. Yeah, I also agree it's likely not going to be very deep either. So, thanks.
All right, so here we are, and I think it's always better to be lucky than good. And so that installation seems to have, so we never would have permitted that. So I think you got lucky and you got some little bit of light going through there. I don't want anyone to escape anybody's mind that, this was not what we would have allowed. So there's always a visible gap in every fence. I understand we're far out and blah, blah, blah and all that. But it
Yeah,
sounds like,
and
yeah.
just
And it's
Chuck, if I could, Stefan also understands that for Edith and Birch, the 4-inch gap at the bottom of the fence was specified on the plans as requested by the commission, so they know that they need to make sure that that exists when they go for the certificates of compliance for those two properties.
Yeah, and that's why this missed on this one, because the fence wasn't talked about. It wasn't part of
Mhm.
our discussion, so weren't able to condition it. So, yeah, I don't want to, I like to be consistent, but we went through that on, what was that? The one down on, right in Kelwin Manor. Can't think of the name, something park. We let them move the fence. It took forever. So I don't want to go through that again. I agree, but I'm concerned that mulch will be continually piled up against that fence, and that there'll be issues, and we can't rely on the gray squirrels to continually create holes for the water to go through. So I'm okay saying all that. We can't have this, you know, I'm on the fence, haha, either way. So I would like to know if anyone else has an issue with the fence. If not, we're just going to move on and take a vote because I see all the rest of these things are resolved. Seeing no hands, comments or motions.
I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance.
Nathaniel, and then seconded by
No one yet.
Second, Brian.
Brian McBride. Seconds it. Okay, so what say you, Mike Gildersgame?
Yes.
Mike Gildersgame and Susan Chapnick.
Yes.
David White.
Yes.
David Kaplan.
Yes.
Brian McBride.
Yes.
Nathaniel Stevens.
Yes.
And Chuck Teroni says yes. Okay.
Great.
All right.
Appreciate that very much. Thank you.
All right, Rich, I can't get this. All right, Rich, thank you very much. It's not like I don't run into Rick all the time. Sorry about
Yeah, that's all right. I get it a lot.
Okay.
Have a good night, everyone. Thanks
Yeah.
again.
Yep.
Bye
Thank
now.
you.
Rich.
Okay, so we're moving right along on the agenda. So our next item is, I might have written these down a little bit differently than the agenda, but let's go with what I'm saying instead of jumping in because I do have everything listed. So right now I have a water bodies working group update by David White.
Okay. We had a brief meeting tonight, and we talked about the budget for next year. We're asked to reduce our application by 10%, general townwide thing. So we put together a new budget, lower than last year by 10%. And we're going to review it and bring it to the commission at their next meeting for review and approval, I hope. I also have a water bodies report that's almost done as well. Also, we'll bring that to the commission at the next meeting for review and approval as well.
That's great. And you're definitely going to be ready for the draft to be on the agenda, I guess, on our distribution day.
It's basically pretty much done now, but we'll have it ready.
Sure. How much time do you need?
I say half an hour to talk about things.
Half an hour. So we're going to add that to the agenda. I'm not,
It might take
I guess
less,
I-
but it depends.
guess I'm going to talk to, David Moore. So this is going to be on the agenda as a timed item for David White and the Water Bodies Working Group to present these two items to us. And it'll be at next meeting. And I think we're probably looking pretty good for that meeting for this to come up. So
We'll
that's
see-
great.
we'll
Can I
a
ask a
draft.
question? Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as David's finished. But
Okay.
I was going to say, we'll send out draft materials probably next week for people to look at.
okay. All right, Susan, you have a question?
Sure, that's what I was going to ask. So I was going to ask two things. One, were you going to have the draft materials at least a week ahead so we could review them? Because
Yes,
the
definitely.
report and the budget ends up being very dense is my
Yes.
recollection. Thank you. And then understanding that you need to do a 10% reduction, are you still going to leave some money in the kind of miscellaneous pot in case we have things that come up? Or are you getting rid of that as your 10%? Or do you not have an approach yet?
I think we have some money there, right, David? We have a little money in miscellaneous. Yeah, we do.
We're maintaining 2,500 in the contingency bucket, and end of year balance is looking like something on the order of $40,000, which is something that we keep in reserve for work at the start of the following calendar year, because there's a mismatch between the contracts and the fiscal years. So
It's going
there's,
down.
but suffice it to say that there's wiggle room in that 40,000 that's the remainder if we need to dip into it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sure. So there's a bucket for miscellaneous, and then there's and part of that is 40,000. But we could
The reserve,
we
have a reserve about
we could
40,000.
go beyond the reserve and use some of that 40,000 if we had to.
Well, we always
Just-
use some of it for Spy Pond because we usually start treating before the next.
So nothing is in
budgeted.
a bucket that you can't touch. We can shift around the money that we're not intend to use this year if things came
We'll have
up.
some flexibility. There's enough of a buffer.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's great. David, is that it? And we'll hear from you at our next meeting? I think so. Okay. So staying with the aquatic theme, we're going to have Susan Chapnick, who is going to talk about Hills Pond, and she's going to give us an update on some discussions that's been happening.
Thank you, Chuck. So at the last meeting, you might recall that Chuck and I and David Morgan had a meeting with Jim Feeney, town manager, about fishing issues in the town, fishing waste issues, and how it impacts fisheries and wildlife, and our concerns about that and paths forward. And we have a summary of that in our meeting minutes, so that we reviewed at the beginning of this. So I won't go over that again. But in order to keep the momentum going, because we have found that sometimes we get agreement in meetings and then bullet points and action items end up not happening in a timely fashion. We also have a separate small group, fishing group, that has been meeting to discuss potential options going forward. And one of the potential options, which I personally support, is getting some independent scientific investigation on Hills Pond. In addition to kind of overlap and complement the water quality data that we're getting from water and wetland. The fisheries data, we don't know anything about the fish there. We don't know the population. We don't know the sizes. We don't know if they're stressed or not stressed. And I, for one, am in support, and I'm presenting it here just to see if there's interest from the commission to do a scientific study on a fisheries assessment of Hills Pond. And it would be focused on fisheries, but it would also, it wouldn't put blinders on. So I spoke to a fisheries scientist at Norman Doe Associates. They're a firm I've worked with before. They're located in New Hampshire. I actually worked with them on helping evaluate the Boston Harbor the outfall, from the digester eggs that have cleaned up all the sewage, and the outfall that goes out into the Boston Harbor, and whether that's affecting the ecology and the environment. Anyway, they're great scientists, in my opinion. I spoke for half an hour with Tyler Parent, who's a fisheries scientist and was very generous with his time and not charging me to just pick his brain on what this would be. And he said there's a whole bunch of options we could ask for, but after I explained what our concerns were and what we're already doing for water quality, he suggested we might want to do a fish assemblage study, which he likes to do 3 times a year, spring, summer, and fall, but understands that a small town and a small pond may not be able to handle that in terms of budget. And so he suggested a field study that would just happen in July. And what they would do is they would take a raft and go out electrofishing. And I didn't really understand electrofishing, but for some people might understand it. It does not harm the fish. It just temporarily stuns them and they go back in the water. So it's not actually killing the fish. And they would do length, weight, species, take photographs, try to assess if the fish are stressed. They would also, they said, opportunistically record other wildlife and environmental concerns or wildlife they see, turtles, birds, etc. Because they wouldn't, they would try to do it a little more holistically than just fish, but their focus mainly is fish. He said to me that in his opinion, in working on this for years and years at large ponds and small ponds, is usually it's dissolved oxygen. That's the stressor, often from the algal blooms, from after the algal blooms when the algae falls down into the water column and eats up the oxygen. And he says that's often the biggest stressor in small ponds, but he doesn't know, what he's going to discover at this pond. He said we could make a list of the kinds of questions we want answered, and he could put together a plan, and then we could choose from that plan what we could afford. I understand that the reason I asked about the budget is because I understand that we don't have a budget for fisheries assessment. The Save Arlington Wildlife, which Laura Kiesel, who's presented to the commission before, runs, has some funds that she could put towards this. I was wondering if we could put some funds from miscellaneous, from water bodies, and get a study done. The reason I think an independent study is important is just to keep the pressure on the town to actually do something. We have a list of things that we said, that the town manager said is either in progress or might be, and we're expecting that list from Natasha Waden from Park and Rec, but we haven't seen it. And if we have an independent study that gives us scientific information on what's happening at the pond, it can give us more justification for putting some of these other things in place, like maybe signage, or maybe, fishing designated areas, or maybe education, or maybe what he said, there's something called creel surveys, which I never heard of, but I'm not an angler, so I don't know. And he said those are educational conversations that managers of the body of water sometimes go out and just talk to the anglers and say, what have you been catching? How many have you been catching? Have you had any problems with your line tangling? How often do you come out here? Just to get the information and start the discussion of, these issues. So anyway, I just wanted to open this up to the commission to find out the temperature of the commission, of whether there's interest in doing a scientific study. I'm not saying we're paying for it, but I'm just saying, is there interest? And then, we can go from there. So yeah.
Before I go to Nathaniel, I was under the impression that you were going to go through this like you just did and say that Norman Doe was going to come here and give a presentation.
They can, but they asked me what they should present on, and I said, why don't I find out if the commission wants to do this first?
Yeah, so
before they come.
If we're going to have Norman Doe present here, there might be some other questions. Plus, for me, I feel like if this was going to be put in front of the commission, we didn't offer any information. Nothing was uploaded. The commission is just kind of shooting from the hip with their questions at this point.
No, I understand that. I was just trying to,
yeah.
I don't want to invite Norman Doe to come and speak if there's not an interest.
So I'm okay
if
we ask some questions, and that's fine, but then we figure out what Norman Doe should do, or if we even want them, or if this is even appropriate for conservation and not for Water Bodies Working Group.
Right.
Or where this should lie, which is fine with me if it's one or the other. And then we ask some questions tonight, and if it's going to be Norman Doe, I don't want to do it twice. So if they're coming at an upcoming meeting, let's hold off on some of these deep questions. And with that,
Cool.
I will turn
I
to
wouldn't have the
Nathaniel.
answers anyway. I'm not the fisheries scientist.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Thanks, Chuck. Yes, Susan, I think studies are great. Again, funding is my main concern. I might suggest, I guess David White might know if there's been previous studies done on the pond already. Another thought is to see if we can get some graduate students to do this. I know in my graduate coursework, we did the electromagnetic, what is it called? Whatever it is, fishing, to count fish in a stream. I didn't do it in a lake.
Electrofishing. Yeah.
Electrofishing, yeah.
Yeah.
So I have had experience with that, so I know it doesn't
Oh, we're going to
kill the
ask you to
fish.
do it, Nathaniel.
Yeah,
It's your spare
exactly.
time.
But what I'm saying is, I'm sure there's a graduate student or graduate students who might do it. Certainly, the Tufts program has done a lot of study on the chemistry of the water quality of Spy Pond, which I know is different from studying the ecology or the fisheries of the pond. But I would maybe, instead of paying a consultant, first explore with all the Boston area schools we have to see if we can get someone to do it for a better price on that. And also, we should probably rope in someone from Friends of Menotti Rocks Park, because they may have some historical knowledge about studies or resources in the neighborhood, people in the neighborhood who might have connections to some of those graduate programs. Those are my thoughts.
Right. So
Do you feel like you need
that's a
to-
good idea. I do know that there haven't been fishery studies as far as we know, and one of the members of the Friends of Menotti Rocks Park, I think it was Ellen on the Water Bodies Working Group, thought the study wasn't needed because they know that it's just a small pond and there's whatever.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's like,
Thanks. Okay.
I think,
They've been
yeah.
consulted. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I think that but your idea of a graduate student, maybe that's something we could explore. I don't know of any, but that doesn't mean we can't put feelers out.
Nathaniel, how did you feel about a presentation from Normando?
I guess fine. I almost feel like that the Water Bodies Working Group should vet this a little bit more before to see if it's something that should be recommended before we invite Normando.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I'm not sure who was next, but I'd like, because how that was left off, I'd like to go to David White because he's the chair of the Waters Working Group.
Okay, thank you. I think we need to get a larger group involved. I've passed this on to the Friends of Menotti Rocks Park. I've not heard from them as yet. I think we need to get a larger group beyond just this commission involved in this discussion and possibilities. And if we have a presentation, it should be a public presentation. People shouldn't be invited to be there and ask questions about it. I feel it's sort of like we're not really engaging people widely enough at this point to move forward with it. I mean, it's an interesting thing to do, but I think we need to get more involvement from Park and Rec, perhaps. Definitely from Friends of the Park. I mean, I've reached out to them, but I've not answered back from them as yet. But they need to
That's
be
a good
involved in
point.
some way.
Right. So that was one of the reasons why I did want Normando to do a presentation, because it would be a public meeting. It would be on our agenda. Maybe we could send out a little,
We can do some prep first.
email blast, because some people don't look at the agenda, or something like that. And that would be a public meeting. But I hear you, David. I think it's not getting enough dissemination.
Yeah, you need more processing.
Okay. Does anyone know who was next? Mike Gillisgame or Brian?
Mike, go ahead.
Okay, I would echo what Nathaniel said in terms of seeking information from or input from other sources, and I was going to suggest that Fish and Game may already have some information, or they might have some resources that we can use. I would also ask the question, so we find somebody to do a fishery survey and maybe some ancillary issues. So then what? What do we do with that information? I think that if we're talking about a management plan for Hills Pond, I don't know if there's any funding available that, would lead us to manage that pond in some way different from what is currently being managed. So I would caution that this little pond is, I'm not sure if it's worth the effort actually at this point, but I think it might be interesting to explore further to see what kind of information might be developed and what we do with that information.
Thanks, Mike. Brian McBride.
Yeah, maybe similar comment to Mike's in the what if we do this, then what? I guess my working theory on this is that the victims of this potentially harmful activity are the turtles and the birds who are getting tangled up in the excess fishing lines, not per se the fish in the pond. And therefore, would this study address the harm to turtles and flying, birds that are getting tangled? And if not, I think it kind of misses the mark in terms of driving the action that, at least in my mind, would be: are we going to restrict fishing there? Are we going to limit fishing? Because the victims are not actually the fish. We intend to kill the fish, So that's my comment.
Would the money be spent best elsewhere? So maybe that's what we're thinking about at this point. Does anyone else have any questions? I hope it's my privilege. I'm going to say it as if it is. When I finish with David White, I am going to open this up to people that are attending tonight's meeting, because I see a few of them, a few names out there that I recognize, and maybe they have something to say. So David White, the floor is yours.
I was going to ask whether you had anything back from Park and Rec yet on the fishing line issue.
Sure, hold on with that. No answers. That's coming up in our next discussion item. Yeah, thanks for asking. So with that, does anyone who's attending tonight's meeting have a comment that they would like to make as far as having, I guess we're thinking about, is the fishing study needed? Should we have Norman Doe here? When? Should we open that up to a broader audience? And what are we actually trying to achieve here? If it's assessing the fish and their stress through algal blooms, or is it the fishing line issues and how best to manage those? So I'm just gonna wait a few moments. If someone would like to speak, just use the raise hand function or turn your video on and start speaking. Sure, seeing none, I'm going to go back and say there was a comment about having the Water Bodies Working Group take this on and flush it out a little bit more. David White, is that something that you would like to do and come back to the committee when
After
you
the budget
have
is approved, I
a
think.
plan? Okay,
Is
that agreeable?
That's
process
fair.
right now.
I know that you're busy with that. That's fair.
Okay, so we'll be in touch with you also. Maybe we'll go 2 weeks and then or so, and then get back in touch and make sure that this is something we can get back on the agenda
Yeah,
soon.
more than 2
And-
weeks, I think, because we had to also be sent to FinCom and so on. So that takes
Right.
a lot of our time.
That's fine. And David,
That's fine, yeah.
when you do put this on the agenda, could you give me times so that I can make sure I can be there to answer questions? And I would like, if it's okay with you, to invite Laura Kiesel if she's available, because she's been instrumental in trying to
Okay,
help
Laura
the town
can come and speak. I
prepare
don't
this
think she
issue.
should be there for the whole meeting.
Excuse me?
It's not a public meeting. She can come and speak, but she can't. Don't think she should be
Yeah,
there.
no, just to do either do a little mini presentation or answer questions,
Yeah,
if that's okay with
a
you.
brief portion.
Because I think it's an
So-
educational thing to make sure that the members of the Water Bodies Working Group
Yeah,
have all the
presentation, yeah.
information. Yeah. Mhm.
All right, another couple of minutes. We're going to be. You guys can talk about that, outside of this meeting. I think it's a great idea. Again, David's the chair of that committee. So Susan, please talk to him about when that. And I think what would be great, David, if you knew approximately when you were going to come back, if you could let us know, because we're trying to track dates on the agenda for future events, so we don't forget, and everyone understands what's coming up and when. So if you had that, it would be great just to email it to
I
us
think
when
the
you
Water
can.
Buddies group might be able to talk about this in April and
Mhm.
come back.
So in May or end
May,
of April?
May.
First meeting in May.
Most likely May.
Okay. We'll check with you prior to the first meeting in May. Okay.
Good.
Thank you, David. So I think what makes sense is to have a recreation update from David Morgan, but I have something to say before that. And I'm not sure if if this even happened, but it's according to my emails. So I reached out. We had a meeting with Jim Feeney, town manager, myself, Susan, and David Morgan, and there was some timelines that we wanted Natasha to put together that had to do with fishing line cleanup, educational events, cleanup days, and putting back those line receptacles. And so I reached out a couple of times, and I think it was this week or last week, he said that he finally got, no, it was on the 2nd, he finally got an email out to Natasha, and they expected to meet this Thursday morning. And once he receives the timeline, not only was going to share it with all of us, he was going to share it with the select board members. And so, Susan, I wanted to just, hit you with you and me are going to, we've been talking to select board members, and once that happens, once we receive this list, it would be our turn to reach back out to them now that they have the timeline and talk to them about it. And so, with that, David, did that meeting happen? Has it been rescheduled? I guess most importantly, do you know anything about this?
I just have to say no. I mean, it's between Jim and Natasha. I presume the meeting happened, but I haven't had any communication about it. And it was scheduled just for this morning, so, by tomorrow, Monday, maybe I might get a follow-up, but I haven't yet.
David, did you have a meeting with Natasha recently or
I
not?
have one next week. We
okay.
met, I guess it was 2-3 weeks ago, and we scheduled our regular meeting time for, what is that, the second Friday of the month in the morning, so we'll meet again on the 13th.
So I trust this will be an agenda item for you.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
There's this and many other things, yeah.
And is she in receipt of that, the notes from our meeting with Jim Feeney? Which had remember you sent me a Google Drive of the notes, a Google Doc.
They're on
and
the
I
Google Drive,
corrected them. And then they're basically the notes of our meeting. Is she in receipt of that?
I'm not
So she's
sure.
not surprised what we said?
I will need to check and see.
Okay.
But
that's probably a good idea to give her that before you meet, so she understands what we talked about.
Yeah. Before the meeting on the 13th.
Yeah, we don't want any surprise. We're not trying to work in a vacuum.
Right.
We're just having trouble communicating. So.
Per Jim's town manager's guidance, he wanted to meet with Natasha and have that conversation directly this morning. So I haven't followed up with her. He suggested I take a back seat and let them drive for a while. So I'm following his direction. But for the meeting on the 13th, I'd be happy to keep her in the loop about the meeting. And she knew it was coming up. So
okay.
It would just be follow-up from my notification I gave her earlier.
Thank you.
All right.
Chuck, did you see we have a question in the chat?
Yeah, that someone just asked if you were still talking about the fishing line issue. I think in a way you were, but you were also just trying to follow up on our meeting. This is a fishing line comment ever since we finished with David White. And so Susan's request to have Norman Doe here, and then my relaying what Jim Feeney said about having a meeting with Natasha. That was certainly about putting a list together. I went over the list. We were hoping to have some dates on that. We're hoping that David Morgan knew something about it, but yes, it was all fishing line related. I think next steps as far as this goes is, I just think that, let's give Jim a little bit of time to see if we get that note. As I understand it, the meeting was supposed to be this morning, and then we can reach out if it doesn't come sometime next week and find out if that meeting ever happened. I don't know how close that is to David's meeting, but I think that we have to, David's going to do his thing and we're going to do our thing. So I can send another letter out. So I don't know. Does that answer all the questions out there? Put it in the chat if we have something else to discuss. If not, I'd like to move on. Unless there are other comments from the commission. This is, well, I guess one last thing. Yeah, we already talked to David. David's going to take this up and decide if it's appropriate for the Water Bodies Working Group, figure out some dates, and then come back to the commission. So you're going to have to, talk this through with everyone.
There's a little balls in the air.
Yeah, I know. It's a tough thing. It seems like it's a Water Bodies Working Group thing, but whatever your decision is fine with me. And we can do it here also. Hopefully we'll have a light agenda moving forward. All right, so with that, I'm going to put David Morgan on the spot. And so I understand that this is going to be something that Susan may weigh in on also, but let's just keep it short and brief because I think it was kind of like no harm, no foul. So Susan, if you don't have to say anything, that's fine with me. David, can you update us on the administrator's report for the Mystic Valley cleanup that everyone was talking about last week?
Yes, so I can't really take credit for the information that's come in. I've received info from Beth Malofchik vis-a-vis Susan, and from engineering in the town manager's office about the incident that's over on Mystic Street. So bottom line, there was electrical wire with the fluid that is sometimes contained in there for connectivity and insulation and so forth, that spilled to the tune of 10,000 gallons. Ooh. It was all contained in a hole within the roadway. There was no impact to the surface waters, no leakage into storm drains or anything of the sort. Clean Harbors and other professionals were mobilized. They contained it and have been working on the cleanup. You can see that that's ongoing. And my understanding is it'll take another 2 weeks to wrap up. I expect to get the final report from engineering and or Eversource, who's responsible for the work, to ensure that we have everything sufficiently cleaned up. But they've got Clean Harbors out there. It's a reputable firm. Everybody knows about it, from EEA all the way down to little old me. So we are keeping eyes on it and certainly aware that there will be follow-up. So Dave, you got a question or comment?
Yeah, just this is the work that's ongoing at the corner of Mystic Street and Mystic Valley Parkway in front of the police station. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But David, are they mobilized underneath that white tent that's up towards the lights, the intersection?
Yep.
Okay, so if you drive past there's a big tent, 30 feet by 25 feet. and they're underneath there, and I guess that's where the spill happened.
I think it's gone now.
Oh, is it? No.
Yeah, because I
Okay.
think they did the cleanup portion and now they have to do some sampling and analysis to prove that it's cleaned up.
Sure. Well, if anyone, I just didn't want, because we have that bridge project going on. So
Right.
this is same street, but up the street at the intersection happened in a hole, and well, I think the appropriate action had taken place. Susan, do you have anything to add? Oh, we're good.
No, we're good. Unless somebody has a question for me, because I know the process, or you can email me later if you want to understand. It's a process under the Massachusetts contingency plan to do cleanup of hazardous waste.
Sure. Okay. Seeing none, we're going to move on, and let's go for a CPA update if there's one from Brian McBride.
Yeah, Chuck, just quickly, we had a couple site visits this week, which was a new addition to the CPA process, which was really helpful. They were sort of arbitrary, so I didn't get to go on the one yesterday that was at Cooks Hollow. David, I don't know if you happened to be included in that visit. I don't know if you have a summary. I heard it went well and people were supportive. But...
Yeah, we had 3 members of the committee, 2 members of the Open Space Committee turned out to support, and then Christine Von Journo, who staffs CPA, was also present. I just walked through the final plans and helped give folks literally the lay of the land, showing people where things were going to go. I think the nicest thing about that site visit is that they were paying a visit to Cusack Terrace just before we met at Cooks Hollow, and that's the affordable housing development directly next door. Jack Nagel, who heads up Arlington Housing Authority, was on that site visit at Cusack Terrace and sang the praises about the Cooks Hollow project, saying that it was really important to residents at Cusack Terrace, that they had been engaged in the public process around it and were looking forward to it, even that they were gonna make some plans, which we had discussed previously, to better connect the Arlington Housing Authority property to Cooks Hollow. And this remains to be seen exactly how or if it will come to pass, but we're gonna try and share some maintenance duties potentially as well. So, you know, he more or less mentioned all of those things to the committee, and they thought it was a really good stamp of approval to get. So I was reassured that he was there. It was a nice thing that he said all that.
Well, I think between your sort of reduction of the ask and the genuine support for this project, it's looking promising. The voting is actually next Wednesday, and I'll be flying to Mexico for vacation, but I'll try to make the meeting. They've had some scheduling snafus, but I think it looks positive for us. The only other note I would say about CPA is we have this sort of looming issue with Town Hall and the exterior of Town Hall decaying and needing some significant, like $100 million or whatever the number, millions and millions of dollars of funding. That will be, people will be hitting CPA for that money, and it may squeeze the availability of money for the future CPA projects. So that's just something on the horizon I wanted to let you all know about.
That's an appropriate expense for CPA?
There's a big debate about that, Chuck. And I got it is historical preservation, but my argument with a couple people has been, we're not doing maintenance. We're not doing maintenance across the town, and then we're paying the piper.
Well, it's a facilities building. I mean, and
it's already built.
I'm just wondering. You know, I know it gets loose sometimes, but that takes away. So when you take away money from other projects, so that's definitely another park that was renovated. You know.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's a year or two away.
Well, I'm glad you're having that conversation anyways, that someone is at least saying, well, let's make sure this is what is it, the feasibility chart? I forgot what the name of that thing is, but let's see if it fits into the chart and where it
Yeah.
fits.
Seems like a capital expense to me, but anyway.
Well, you know, I don't want to take up too much time, but they are using capital expense money for the interior damage that's been done over the past decade with water. And the CPA money, they're asking for the exterior envelope repairs, which is the source of the leaks. Um, uh, and you know the pitch. I'm taking up too much time. The pitch is there are these amazing ceilings in the auditorium and the various rooms that are on the verge of being permanently destroyed or damaged. That if we don't do something dramatic soon, it will be a permanent loss of historic interiors of that beautiful building. So that's the emotional sales pitch.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad the conversation's happening. So I, Nathaniel, do you want to give an update on the Sims conservation restriction?
Thanks.
Would you like to?
Sure. Yeah, just I wanted to get actually a question for the commission, and I don't want to take too much time, but I will be missing the next meeting. We're dealing with the encroachments, as people know. I guess I just wanted to get people's sense of if we're dealing with 2 or 3 property owners who are being a little recalcitrant. So would people be willing to compromise and allow maybe 50 square feet of encroachment into the conservation restriction area for as long as the people own their house, which could be anywhere from 1 year to 40 years. I guess, is there any tolerance for that type of relatively minor encroachment, or do people say no frigging way? So I don't know. I guess think about that. Because we're running late. I don't want to take any more time, but that was the question I wanted to pose. So I will ask, I guess, at our meeting in a month, if I could, to
Yeah,
get
that'd be the 5th.
get people to think about that, because it's getting down to a practical matter of trying to get some sort of agreement on some of these encroachments. Some people are willing to pull back a bit, but want to keep. There's a paved patio that's going to be really hard to move, and is it worth the effort, or just compromise and let it stay for a bit and the next owner take it out?
My question is, if it's temporary, how is that enforced?
Well, we'd come to have some sort of agreement with it, with a written agreement.
Would that be in the part of the deed somewhere?
Well, that's the thing we'd have to get into. We're not sure. Yeah, it would have to be. That'd be recorded, I would think. So
Can you go down the road of if they want to leave these encroachments because they put a patio or whatever, there's some sort of agreement where we would get services for that to help us
Or
help
payments?
us with payments, or just I don't know, maybe they have to I don't know, but if they want to leave something there, what are they giving us?
yeah, good
Just
point. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to take any more time. I know it's getting late. We have another hearing, so but just I just put that thought in your minds, and if we can discuss it further in 4 weeks, that would be great. Thanks.
yeah. Okay. And with that, we're going to turn to the first of our 2 hearings, and it's DEP file number 910374. It's a notice of intent for the Winchester Country Club located at 468 Mystic Street. A public hearing will be held for the Conservation Commission to consider notice of intent to perform golf course fairway and green reconfiguration and improvements. Areas posed to be altered or include the buffer zone, the adjacent upland resource area, the riverfront area, and associated with Herbert Myers Brook. And at our last meeting, we noted that we were out there on January 21st. Susan, Nathaniel Stevens, Mike Gillisgame, and myself were there with Sarah Stearns and others. And Sarah has turned her video on. And so my first question is the stormwater, I'm going to let you, but I need to know this first. I'm like, which one of these has the stormwater in it, or both? So
The other one.
that's kind of what I was wondering. And then introduce yourself for the record and bring us up to date since we talked last.
Great, of course. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Sarah Stearns with Beals and Thomas. With me tonight is my colleague, civil engineer Matt Cody, the club's manager Jim Simmons, and Superintendent Blaine Doherty. Great recall on the site visit date. Thank you for reminding the commission of that, Mr. Chair. We did meet after that and kind of walked through it with photographs from Jackie and Susan, and just kind of talked about the improvements proposed on the 18th fairway in the first tee. To answer your question, our stormwater management design and report is associated with our other filing. That's to attend to the drainage meeting the performance standards for the additional impervious area. In this project, under this notice of intent, we're not proposing any new impervious area, no tree removal, change in tree canopy, no vegetation removal, other than some ornamental shrubs adjacent to the first tee. So if you recall this project, I know Matt has the plan up of the other project, but the point of having that up is that we have submitted to the commission last week an overview kind of under the heading of our other project, but it will also include a native landscaped area right adjacent to the first tee where that improvement is proposed. So we included, since it's such a small area, we included that on the overall plan. And I know one of the things we talked about at our last hearing is kind of comprehensively including, some of the planted areas and no maintenance zones on both sets of plans just for continuity going forward. So we thought we could just use this plan for tonight to talk about both hearings. But just to sort of hone in on the landscape or the planting area associated with this project, Matt's circling it right now. That is adjacent to the first tee where there's a couple of shrubs coming out. I think one or two rhododendrons and a burning bush to reorient the tee box slightly. And so we have outlined an area that we've spoken about at the past couple of hearings in our site walk to replace those shrubs with some native grasses on the slope there, as well as 3 shrubs or so. And I think the goal for tonight was just to get the commission's feedback on this planted area as part of this notice of intent. And if that is acceptable, we can prepare a more specific planting plan and include that as a supplemental piece of material, update the plan with that. And that way we'll have, a true planting plan. We're just kind of looking at the area tonight and just making sure that everyone is on the same page with that.
Okay. Do you want questions about that now?
I'll pause. Yep. And, we can go over it in as much or as little detail as the commission would like. I don't want to overdo it, but I think probably a good time to just have a conversation now about next steps.
Sure, Susan Chapnick.
Thanks, Chuck. Thanks, Sarah. I am fine with that area. We saw it on site. That's what we discussed, is removing the invasives and replacing with native grasses and some shrubs. We added shrubs because there were shrubs there.
Yeah.
Of course, they would be native.
Yes.
The other thing we also discussed is, and I know how this is complicated, and that's why you put together this plan for both NOIs, that in also as mitigation for this work, we would request some enhancement of the brook as well. No mow areas and replanting, but I understand that's going to be more associated with the second NOI. So I'm fine with this but I would like when we go down the road as a practical matter, we have to make sure that in our findings, we mention the other NOI for this NOI so that we have documentation of where our mitigation plantings for this NOI are. I guess I just want to make sure we don't lose that.
Yeah.
I don't know
And
if Nathaniel has a way of doing that, but I thought maybe in findings eventually. So obviously we're not approving a planting plan because you didn't give it to us, but
Right.
I can say that that's an accurate representation of what we discussed on site, and what our intent is. Yeah.
And I think if I could just respond quickly through the chair, agreed with all of that. And I think, we took that feedback from our last meeting, and that's honestly the reason why we didn't want to submit a full plan update, because we wanted to have this conversation tonight about making sure we're presenting it and documenting it the way that everybody's comfortable with. So this is sort of a stepping stone to getting to the final plans, I think, on both proposals. So I think, I guess I would just be looking for additional feedback from other commissioners about this, very small but important area to be planted. And then we will, again, present a more formal planting plan at our next discussion.
So Sarah, this is obviously not restoration, this is mitigation here. Do you meet the 2-to-1 on this based on the work at the first tee?
Yes. So to further complicate things.
So I'm only talking about that area that says native landscape
Yes.
area. And so that's because to me, if we could not point to the other notice of intent and it holds, it stands by itself with all
Yes.
the other mitigation. That's kind of where I'm heading. And so that's why I asked that question about the 2-to-1.
So in the first NOI, we filed that under 310 CMR 1058-4. And our assessment of that was that that project met the performance standards under the general standards for riverfront area. If you recall, we didn't initially propose mitigation or restoration just because there was very little change to drainage patterns, canopy cover. The fact that this area is all managed, I know it doesn't necessarily for this first NOI qualify in DEP's assessment of degraded. So, that wasn't filed that way. So this area for this one NOI, I'm not sure that this is technically mitigation under those performance standards. I guess I have to go back and look at the exact language that we filed under, but I guess I'm interested to hear your thought on that as well.
Yeah, hearing that, I would probably want to look at it myself. I thought it was mitigation. You're disturbing, and then you're taking an area that was hardly, like a covered landscape, and you're intensifying it and doing, herbaceous and shrub color. And so I felt like that was an improvement over what was there. And what was there was a lot of mulch. And
Right.
so, yeah, so you're calling this a native landscape. So I'm assuming, we asked for a shrub, so we didn't ask for a tree,
Right.
but still we're getting more than that what was there and a higher value on
Right.
what's being planted. And it also looks like it shows a spot around what used to be the caddy shack, or what is the caddy shack that's going to be converted. And so that might be included also, and it's the same native landscape that you're expecting. So, unless someone else has an opinion, in my mind, I thought we had a mitigation area here.
So we're definitely proposing mitigation in our second NOI. And again, I know we're trying to not conflate the two, but I think we're really and unfortunately there's a leader coming where it says native landscape area to both the social pavilion, which is a part of our other project, and this first T area. Again, it was just to have everything in one place for the discussions tonight. So I think we're really just talking about this area next to the T. And just again, it's all sort of the same thing. We're not really changing anything substantially that's there today versus what's proposed next to this first T. So it's sort of like to like, I guess, is what I'm getting at, if that makes sense.
All right, so do we have, so did we meet the performance standards on 10.585 with
584.
584 with this alteration and this little bit of enhancement in the native planting area? So I think we have the two people we want to talk to with their hands raised right here.
Yep.
So Susan, I believe you put your hand up first.
Actually, I'll let Dave Kaplan go first because I'm checking the regulations while he's talking.
All right, Dave.
Okay, I'll still check the regulations, but I'm just going with my gut here. I tend to agree with Sarah that the alterations are fairly de minimis. I remember the tee box maybe getting slightly closer to the river, which was what I initially looked at as potentially triggering some kind of mitigation. But I think what's proposed offsets like the slight differences. I think land cover to land covers staying the same, and we're getting some native landscape out of it just in that one polygon off the tee box. Even though it's pointing to both. So I'm good with what's proposed. Thank you.
Sure, thanks, David. And we're going to find out if Susan is a quick reader.
Yeah, so no significant impact is what I'm looking at under 10.584 D1. And I think it meets that criteria. It talks about less than 5,000 square feet or 10% of riverfront area, provided that there's a 100-foot wide area of undisturbed vegetation maintained along the river, or existing vegetative cover is preserved or extended. That's where I was getting to the fact that these are kind of coupled, because in my mind, they meet that with the vegetation enhancement or mitigation, whatever you want to call it, in the second NOI, which is along Herbert Brook.
So you're keen on
So that's
in that
why
this-
I'm a little, I don't know how you separate these as
Yeah.
cleanly as you would like, Chuck.
So you're keying in on that preserved or enhanced,
Yeah.
and you don't feel like this is an enhancement that qualifies to for the performance standards. So it doesn't meet the performance standards because this is not
No, it does meet
enough
the
enhanced.
performance standards because it's less than 5,000 square foot alteration, right? Is that true, Sarah?
It also, this planting area is about 400 square feet.
Yeah.
So just to
So
give you a
less
sense
than
of
a
scale.
5,000 square foot alteration. So that's number one.
Removing,
What?
sorry, I was
Go
just going to
ahead.
say, we're also removing an invasive and
Right.
enhancing what's, ornamental there to something that's native.
Right. And so it's got to also then maintain undisturbed vegetation along the river or preserve it and extend it to the maximum extent feasible. And so that language to me is met on the second NOI with the vegetated buffers along Herbert Brook.
I think it directly talks about this area. So it is along the brook.
Mhm.
It enhanced it.
Mhm.
I don't remember whatever the other one is, but I think we're
I
splitting
think we're saying the
straws on
same
this.
thing, that
Yeah.
it's meeting the performance standard the
I
way
think it
I
is
interpret it.
meeting the performance standards. We don't need to go near the brook. So it sounds like in my mind that you're saying you would be more comfortable if this restoration was closer to the brook. You see that as being closer, but it does say to the extent practicable, this is the spot for it in this situation. And I think that's where you're able to kind of rest your head on these standards and keeping everything, right here.
Okay.
Instead of adding that mitigation that's along the brook.
Right. And the standards also say no significant adverse impact at 10.584 D1. And I think we're not creating a significant adverse impact because of the vegetation that we're putting in, removing that pathway, which we didn't talk about, but that's also happening, which is impervious surface there right now.
It is proposed in the other notice, just
Right, but
clarification.
yeah,
But yeah,
so,
in
right.
reality, all of
In
this is
reality, when
going
you're
to
the
be
boots on the ground.
yeah.
Yeah.
So in reality, Susan, you don't have to go over the ones that it meets because it's pretty clear that the one that you were concerned about is the one that you needed to do the improvement as close as possible to the river. I think this is as close as possible here, and it's an enhancement over the existing conditions.
Great.
So it
I'm
feels
good with
like,
it.
yeah, if you just even compare it to the project, you're pretty good.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Sarah, and in conclusion, I guess we're going to get a planting plan for this area. So it's going to be herbaceous, shrubland, and monitoring plan and monitoring for invasives and some sort of reports, which is pretty standard. It's our standard condition. So anything else on this one here?
Just as a reminder, Sarah, we have a 3-year monitoring requirement
Okay.
in the
In a
bylaw.
percentage, right?
And it's 80% survival rate
Okay.
for these types of plants, 100% of trees, but you're not planting trees.
And I just presume that would be in the condition.
Yeah, but I
Okay.
just want to give you notice because when you're
Right.
writing your planting plan and you're monitoring for invasives, you
I
need
think
to
it may be in our regs as well, hopefully.
It is.
Okay, yep, so
In the vegetation.
Sarah can take a look at the regs, yep.
Great. And I'll use the native planting list that you have on the available to us on the website.
Perfect.
I've got it printed out. So we've
Great.
been using it. And that sounds great. So I appreciate that. If the commission is satisfied with that, we'll take that action item and get that submitted through the office in advance of our next hearing and hopefully conclude that discussion.
So when would you like this continued to? I'm usurping Chuck. Chuck, you're supposed to ask that. Sorry.
What is the date of the next hearing? Is it the
19th?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the 19th would be great, if you please.
Okay. So we're going to ask for a motion to continue this hearing until the 19th.
So moved.
Nathaniel Stevens.
Second. Oops. David got it.
Nope, I'll give it to Susan.
Oh, okay.
Wow. And give it to Susan. Mike Gilderscame.
Yes.
David White.
Yes.
David Kaplan.
Yes.
Brian McBride.
Yes.
Nathaniel Stevens.
Yes.
Susan Chapnick.
Yes.
Chuck Teroni says yes. Okay, it is continued. Now we're going to move on to our next one, which is DEP file number 91376. There's a notice of intent for the Winchester Country Club, 468 Mystic Street. The public hearing will be held on the Conservation Commission to consider a notice of intent to conduct improvements to the facilities within the buffer zone adjacent upland resource area and the riverfront associated with Herbert Meyer Brooks and within the buffer zone and or of the bordering vegetated wetland. And again, a site visit was conducted with Susan, Nathaniel Stevens, Mike Gilderscame, and myself on January 21st. And so was Sarah was there and others from Fields and Thomas. Sarah, can you again introduce yourself for the record and bring us up to date with this project?
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Chair. For the record, Sarah Stearns with Beals and Thomas. My colleague Matt Cody, PE, is with me, as well as members of the club staff. What you see in front of you is part of a package that we submitted to the commission last week, summarizing what we talked about last. And the way we broke it up, just to try to stay somewhat organized, is kind of by different scope items. So we have a section on the Caddyshack / social pavilion, the putting green, and then the clubhouse edition, just to try to organize it in some somewhat logical way. So, Mr. Chair, what's the preference here? Shall I just kind of go through the letter? Do we want to focus on what this exhibit shows and just kind of go left to right, or does anyone have any?
So let's address the town engineer and letting everyone know that the town engineer does not anticipate any significant design changes as a result of his engineering review. And he sent an email just saying that, yes, what you're adding impervious surfaces are altering it, so you are required to go through that review. And since you are with the Conservation Commission, his suggestion is to continue with the Conservation Commission, and he believes any change that he asked for will be notes on the plans. So I think I think I got that right. And so I wanted the commissioners, and that was put up on our website for commissioners to review, but I want them to understand that it did get an informal review, and that we've been told that it's going to be fine, and we wouldn't have to have them come back. Although if there are significant changes, you do have to come back. You understand that. So I would add that, and I see that Nathaniel Stevens has his hand up.
Just a small administrative point. Could you please forward that email if it hasn't been sent already to the agent for the Winchester Conservation Commission? Recall at the site visit they requested that.
Good point. Yes,
And
that's a good idea.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder, Nathaniel. I'll do that now.
Nice. That's in your lap, David Morgan. Okay.
And also, just to clarify, and it says this in the email, that you will need a permit, a stormwater permit from the town. And our standard conditions do say that you have to obtain, all appropriate other permits for this project before it proceeds. So,
Yep. Matt has had some good discussions with the town engineer, both in Arlington and in Winchester. So we have made some slight modifications just at the request of the Winchester town engineer. Nothing that will change this design in a substantial way at all. They just use a different system. What we have designed exceeds their standards. So, you can feel confident that this design meets all of the local and state best management standards for stormwater. But those conversations are ongoing. We'll stay in touch with the Arlington engineer, as this process continues with this commission, just so he knows when this is concluded, assuming an order is issued for this, and then we'll, do the more formal permitting with him and take care of that as well. So I think we're on the right track with that. He was pleased, didn't really have any issues with it. So I think as far as stormwater goes, I think we're in good shape with both towns for the portion of the project that's in Winchester as well. And, in our letter response to the commission, we did do a kind of a deeper dive in reporting on pervious versus impervious, kind of existing, proposed, and change in the area, in the pertinent areas. So hopefully that is some clarity on that, and kind of where the focus is there, and that obviously relates to the stormwater review as well.
Sure. And so, so we have two options at this point. So Sarah was, volunteering to go through that list of responses, but if anyone has read it, you can see that a lot of those responses meet the performance standards. So I was just wondering, giving that, if, I mean, I anticipate some people may not want to do it this way, but let's just see if there are merely questions that people have in certain areas that I guess in weaker spots where maybe the town bylaw wasn't fully addressed in their performance standards. So do you want to go through the entire list of answers and or do you want to just start talking about specific areas that we are interested in after our own review? Any
I,
hands?
I would prefer not going through the letter. It's lengthy. I assume everyone read it, but maybe, as you suggest, Chuck, just dive in with questions.
Sure. So let's do that. And yeah, David Kaplan, do you have a comment?
I'm just gonna start diving into questions.
Then since you're like right there, let's go with you. Okay.
I'm ready to
Thank
go.
you. Yeah, ready to go.
So I guess my first question, I saw your comment on not being able to turn the bunker into a rain garden. I think that was an original comment from me, and that's fine. It looks like there's a nice buffer strip of native plantings between the toe of the slope and the wetlands. So I think there'll be some nice rain attenuation at that point, and it'll be better off than it was. So thank you for that. And I had a second question, but it's the materials for the decking. I saw that you had a couple of different options, and I guess just my preference would be the temperature. What is it? The thermal wood rather than the composite. I think that sort of more aligns with our climate goals and having less plastic in the environment. So
I have a comment only because I was talking to a consultant and they said they had a hard time sourcing that, so I'm not sure if it's and I don't want them to come back. So maybe we can think of a condition that would put this first on the list, but if it's something that can't be sourced in a reasonable amount of time, that they have a fallback option. I don't know if you looked into that, David, but that's what I have heard.
But it could be
no,
another wood product.
Yeah, they just, had mentioned that they had those two options available, so I was just giving my preference, but I don't want to bootstrap them into one thing that they can't source.
Okay, and Nathaniel said it can just be another wood product, so maybe that works. But Sarah, are you looking to close tonight?
Well, similarly to our last discussion, we have proposed this to have, feedback from the commission on the sizing and location of our mitigation plan. And yes, in this project, we are calling it a mitigation plan. It does meet the 2-to-1 ratio and then some. So I think from here, if we could sort of come away tonight with the understanding that everybody's satisfied with what we are presenting here tonight, conceptually, we can once again come back with a more formal planting plan. And just kind of outline some species for the areas that we're actively proposing planting. And then, anything else that may come up tonight, try to resolve at the next hearing.
Great. Okay. And all that being said, I was just going to say add options for the decking to your list. Come back with some in case, or determine whether you can get this wood product.
I will coordinate with the club's architect. Those two options came from them, and relay the commission's preference and see if they can come up with some additional alternatives if possible.
Great. Any other questions from the commissioners? It's kind of like, yeah. And I have some too. So Susan, go ahead.
Yeah, can you just briefly go through the impervious surface? comparison? I mean, you don't have to go through all the numbers, but just show me
Yeah.
where everything is.
Sure.
Thank you.
So I'll just kind of touch on the big ticket items.
big ticket
There
items,
aren't any
yes.
real
Thank you.
large areas as part of this project, as you can imagine, but just to kind of focus on the changes. So going from left to right, you mentioned in the other hearing, this sort of short paved cart path is being proposed to be removed and turned to a gravel cart path, just to really encourage pedestrian use rather than golf cart use, given how steep the slope is. So that's one change to the good. The social pavilion, current caddy shack. So the roof that you're seeing here, the proposed, it's overlaid on the existing caddy shack, which is impervious other than sort of the right-hand side where Matt's cursor is, where that sort of gravel picnic area is under a tent. That's really the change in the impervious area as far as the proposed social pavilion goes, because that would become, fully under the roof line.
Covered, so that's impervious area.
Yes, so that is going to be an increase in impervious area under that section of it. And that's calculated into the stormwater management. Again, just holding the line of the existing building at the, closer edge to the stream as it is today, not getting any further. And then, as this plan shows, including a fairly robust native planting plan where, as we saw when we were out there, there's really nothing out there other than managed turf and a couple of, arborvitae type evergreens next to the end of the building. So, so there is a small increase in impervious at the pavilion. The upside is that there's a ton of planting and it will be captured, the roof line will be captured in a stormwater management system, whereas it's not captured at all in today's system. And then I'll just continue on, and if you have specifics, we can go. And then at the putting green area, you can see that there's an existing paved cart path that under the new putting green layout gets removed and then replaced sort of to the left of that in a smaller footprint. So there's a net loss of impervious area in this area. And so, we've kind of calculated that in as well. And then just kind of shifting over to the clubhouse edition. It's so nice having someone else scroll for me. Thank you, Matt. So, and here where the clubhouse addition is proposed, it's proposed partially over existing impervious area, but also over existing maintained lawn. So this area is an increase in pervious area from what it is today. And again, that went into the stormwater calculation. I think that's it for kind of impervious versus pervious in terms of new proposal.
So just remind me, because I don't have the plan in front of me, what is the in total increase in impervious surface?
I believe it's 4,800 square feet total. If I can, let me just pull up my.
That's correct, Sarah.
Okay, 4,800 increase in impervious.
I guess in Arlington, there's a small also increase in Winchester, but in Arlington it's 4,800, yes.
And is that all within 200 Riverfront? Looks like it.
It is, yeah. I mean, the whole entirety of the clubhouse you can see is in the 200 foot.
Okay.
So everything that we're talking about today is in Riverfront, predominantly in the outer 100 feet.
In the outer port. And so we're meeting the 2-to-1 mitigation along, mainly with plantings along Herbert Brook and some of them around the putting green.
Yes. So the planted areas at the pavilion and sort of at the the lower end of the putting green, that alone meets the 2-to-1 mitigation, impact mitigation ratio. And then, we're also including the invasive species management at the edge of the pool in that sort of small area of the bank. and then the no maintenance zone, sort of shown in that crosshatch pattern, which, you know, all in is more like I think it's 7.5 to 1 ratio.
Right, okay, it looked like more than 2 to 1. I forgot what the numbers were. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, I think clearly this is an effort to, you know, enhance the area, restore quite a bit of it, kind of a hands-off approach, formalized as part of this review, in an important area. You know, as we have been saying, a lot of this infrastructure and development was developed several decades ago. And so, you know, by today's standards, I'm sure this would never have happened. But, you know, this is where we are today, and it's a very limited area and scope that the club can kind of give back. And I think that with our discussions and the helpful input from the commission, I think this plan accomplishes that.
And then I had one other question. So there's another stormwater system along Mystic Valley Parkway. And remind me, is that getting changed? That's underneath that's underneath the basketball court. Right?
Yes, so that is the proposed system to address the clubhouse addition, the impervious area from the clubhouse addition. And I think what we talked about on our site walk was, you know, placing it there we originally had it placed a little bit to the north, but there are several trees there that the club wanted to ensure did not get disturbed. And so we didn't want to touch anything that didn't needed to be touched. So we came up with the plan to put this beneath the existing, it's a little sport court areas, basketball hoop, and then just kind of put that back on top of it in its exact same footprint. But again,
yeah, no, that looks like a good location. I just want to make sure that the town engineer reviewed both stormwater systems.
Yes, he did.
Okay, thank you.
No, I saw
Those are all my
David.
questions, Chuck.
Sure, I saw David Kaplan's hand up. Yeah, sure, David.
So, yeah, I just had a question too, a little more information about that no maintenance area. So some of that maintenance area closer to the tee box, was that incorporated into any kind of like mowing or any kind of management? Or I guess my broader question is, has any of this no maintenance area been involved in any kind of maintenance so far?
Some of it does get mowed.
Yeah.
A lot of it, particularly as we kind of go downstream, is sort of hands off for the most part today anyway. And this kind of formalizes the fact, you know, so that going forward, the club has, you know, sort of a template for the next people who, you know, are in management or whatever, you know, when there's the consistency sort of gets lost inevitably over time, that this area isn't to be touched. So I think, you know, up by the culvert, that's an area that gets mowed once a year. And then sort of as you go downstream, that's largely hands off today.
So you're proposing now moving forward to no longer mow that once a year. It'll just be allowed to rewild and
I believe that was the agreement. I think Blaine Doherty is on still, the club superintendent. If it's okay, Mr. Chair, for Blaine to weigh in as the groundskeeper here, is probably the better person to respond to the specifics than I am.
Sure, Blaine. Yeah.
Yes, we have agreed not to mow that area from only mowing it once a year to 0 times a year.
Okay. All right. So I mean, I guess just for that area, if all the other areas you're basically just codifying what you're doing already, and that is a pretty visible area. I mean, it might be a good idea just to see what's coming back. It's kind of an edge habitat, you know, when you have signaled that you'd be interested in helping manage the knotweed, but I guess, you know, if you could have some sort of monitoring plan, and you know, if it does just turn out to be a bed of invasives and that's what comes back, yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily proposing that be a planted restoration area, but again, I would just hate to see it, you know, come back in a way that's going to be aesthetically unpleasing to you, but also ecologically impactful.
Yeah.
So is something that, some kind of informal kind of monitoring plan, and, if there are invasives, maybe you can, come back to the commission in 5 years or something and let us know, and we can help you figure out what to do with that space if it becomes an eyesore for everybody.
So we did include with our submission last week a proposed invasive species management plan for the
Oh,
commission
okay,
to
I
review.
guess I was thinking that would just cover that knotweed space, but
You
you would
know,
think
I
that would
think
cover the.
one of the things we had talked about, I believe, at one point along the way is, no maintenance in this zone other than kind of scouting and keeping an eye out for invasives.
Oh,
And I
okay.
think that would be the only thing, because there is, as you said, particularly on the southern side of the bank, it's pretty well vegetated and it's pretty diverse on its own. But I think, having this in mind to keep, an eye out for invasives, particularly while actively managing the area closest to the pool, I think is reasonable and, um, something that, assuming the invasives plan is approved, I would guess there'd be some kind of monitoring and reporting associated with that. So that could be part of this as well.
Okay. Yeah, well, as it's currently submitted, it looks like it's just specific to knotweed. So if you do want to make it a little bit more general and incorporate other areas of the club, perhaps you should take another look and um, let us know what maybe other potential species or other management techniques you may want to apply to different areas. But I appreciate your taking a look at that.
Great. And that's a great segue into what I was going to talk about. My specific discussion points was about those mitigation areas. And I too read it as it was a knotweed only review. So I wanted you to work on that. And so I wanted you to, and you've said as much here tonight, but I just didn't see it written down. So we would require that all mitigation the areas that are designated for that and the no mow zone are patrolled. And that can be once, twice a year, depending on what Blaine puts in. I guess he's going to be putting it together, this plan, or maybe at least being consulted on it. And so you would monitor for invasives and for winter die-off. And so we certainly don't want these areas, which could turn completely into knotweed as it's happened by the pool. So annual monitoring after the winter would be my preference. So we could include winter die-off in that, and then you would give suggestions for replanting in those cases. Now this includes everywhere. So you can make it more specific because I understand the bank and the slope, those weren't really touched that much, but you're creating a whole habitat area just below the putting green. And so we certainly wouldn't want to have invasives encroaching into that area. And as it is part of the approval process for the projects that you're doing, this is going to be maintained in perpetuity. So in the next, and I don't know if you're here at the beginning of the meeting, I was basically strong-armed into agreeing that I'll be the chair for the next 16 years. So we have to ensure that when you come back here again, that this both sides are vegetated, left wild, and this in place so that creeping down to the edge of the stream does not happen anymore. So this is in perpetuity. I'd like to see those notes on the plan because certain people review plans and certain people review the orders of conditions and other things. So that's what I want. So it's a more than just Japanese knotweed. We want you to review, and I can see that's probably mostly what you have. And I also wanted to put in some sort of like a monitoring trigger, and I'm not sure if the commission agrees that if we'd like to see at least 85% of this area native. And when it falls below or above 10% invasive, you have to come to the commission and present a plan to get it back into the lines that we would like. So no more than 10% of this area can ever be invasive laden.
So just to kind of say it back to you to make sure I'm getting the gist here. And I agree that the knotweed plan was just sort of in response to what we talked about by the pool. But I think even if it wasn't written, I definitely heard the concern for monitoring for other invasives in this area kind of throughout time. So the club will be tasked with monitoring and managing any invasives that crop up in the newly planted areas as well as the no maintenance area in perpetuity. And if things, under a different management regime down the line or whatever get wild and, become overtaken with invasives, they will be required to come back to the commission to develop a more robust plan for management. Is that generally it?
It's generally it, but we put some percentage in there so we would know.
Okay.
And I suggested 85% native. If it ever turned, less than that, you would have to come back to the commission and with a plan. It is in perpetuity, and I also believe with that, so should be the monitoring reports. I don't think that's a big ask, considering there's a grounds, you have grounds people, and you also have Blaine there to who could actually put that report together for the commission.
Sound good to you, Blaine?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. Blaine, I wanted to ask you a question. Are you a licensed applicator?
I am indeed.
Thank you. Susan,
I just wanted
you
to
have your hand up.
clarify, and I know we're not writing conditions now, but when you say 85% native, I think we're better off saying no more than 15% invasive, because some of our plants are not native, but they're not considered invasive. They don't
Naturalized.
like overtake, exactly,
Yeah.
they're naturalized, due to
Yes.
climate change or whatever, and they don't overtake, other plants. So I just want to be careful of how we word that.
Yeah, I accept your condition. That sounds fine with me.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Are we ready to, oh, I should ask if anyone's here attending tonight's meeting who has any comments about this project. And if you do, please speak up, turn your video on, or use the raise hand functions to let us know that you would like to speak.
We're the last one standing, Chuck.
Well, I have the big plan in front of me, but that was good. I thought you were someone for I was like, oh, here's somebody. So given that, we need permission to extend this to, who do we say, the 17th? Can't remember what that date was. That's the next meeting. Do you think you'll be ready on the 19th?
So, yes, what I'd like to do is for both of our notices, prepare our planting plan, submit revised stamped plans that feel final to us ahead of the next meeting. We can do that within the next week and get that to the commission, so you have plenty of time to review and hopefully discuss closing at the next meeting. So yes, February 19th, I think it was, Mr. Chair, and we agree.
Great. Okay.
I just have a procedural suggestion that the more I think about this, I think it would be better to have one plan for both projects, especially for the mitigation.
Thank you for bringing that up. That is what we're going to do. and tell me what you think about this, just to have everything in one place, but sort of clarify which projects are under which DEP file number.
Yeah, have a chart or something on it.
Yeah.
You could do like A is everything for the first one, and B,
Yes, the little
or-
baby first
yeah,
tee planting
or
plan,
something.
show in a
Yeah,
different hatch pattern with
right.
DEP file number, whatever. And we can show the remainder sort of as a, screened pattern, lighter gray or something like that. And then for the other DEP file number, just do the reverse. But that way everything is captured on both, particularly for the larger project. I know that's kind of the meat and potatoes of this whole thing. But not to lose sight of just for compliance on the other project as well.
All right. Okay, we got that. And so with that, any other comments or motions?
Motion to continue to the next meeting on the
19th,
19th,
yes.
which I will not be at, but I'll make the motion anyways.
Can I get a second?
Second, and I won't be
Mike?
at the meeting either.
Oh boy.
Okay,
Mm.
there you go. So let's go with Susan Chapnick
Yes.
and David White,
Yes.
David Kaplan,
Yes.
and Brian McBride,
Yes.
and Mike Gildersgame,
Yes.
Daniel Stevens,
Yes.
and Chuck Troney says yes. So you continue to the 19th, and yeah, very important that we would get this information prior to the meeting. And again, notes on the plan. And don't forget to update the operation maintenance plan to what we also discussed tonight. That would be important.
Chuck, I see that David has his hand up, David Morgan, but I would just like to make sure we have a quorum for the 19th.
I was just gonna
That's
ask
what I
that
was
too.
gonna do.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, see, I read your mind. I will be
I will-
here. There's
I will
one.
not. Brian will not.
Brian will
Brian,
not,
Mike, and
Mike will
Stephen
not,
are
I'll be there.
Nathaniel will not. So it's me. Chuck, will you be here?
I will be here.
You're at 4.
David White?
Yes.
Dave
Yes.
Kaplan,
Yeah, just
You're in?
check.
Dave
Sorry, I was
Kaplan?
checking my calendar. It looks like I'm gonna be here.
Oh, okay, because that's school vacation week, so I didn't know if you were gonna be.
Yeah, that's why I was checking. I wasn't sure. Yeah,
But you will be?
Occasionally, yeah.
yeah, we'll be around.
Okay, so then we have 4. Okay.
Well, I'm
I-
a definite, so, and if everyone else can make it, we do have a quorum.
Okay.
that
if
works.
we
I'll get sick.
have something come up or somebody gets sick or whatever, I'll do my best to notify you as early as possible so you're not
Yes.
saving the date for a meeting that won't happen.
If needed, I might be able to chime in from Colorado.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah,
Of
that's
the
good.
four that are planning on attending, is everybody still eligible? If anyone has missed a meeting, they've caught up with.
Done a Mullen rule. What, you know what? That's a good point. I'll ask Jackie to check that because she can check the minutes. Jackie, if you
I
can check the
I
minutes.
know I've been
but I
there.
think I've met. I think I've
Susan,
been in
David
all the
Kaplan,
meetings.
yeah.
Yeah.
David White, what do you say? We can have Jackie check, but I think we all remember this project. So David White,
I'm not sure Dave missed any meetings though.
No, I
did
don't
you?
miss
I don't think
meetings.
anybody missed any meetings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can't recall. But if
Great.
I do miss one meeting, that means I just have to watch the meeting I
Right.
missed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, and fill out the Mullen rule, the form, and then that's fine. You're
All right.
eligible.
Yeah,
I know
Jackie.
the very first hearing, we were missing a couple of members on, so let's just double check that, just because that
Yes.
would be disappointing for everyone to
Yes,
come if
absolutely.
it didn't work out, didn't have the right group of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
Thank
missed
you.
one of the
Yes.
early meetings, but I'm not coming anyway.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay, well, it sounds like we can figure it out. Either way, we'll work on getting revised plans. Matt's also going to be away for that meeting, so we'll make sure to get everything done the week before, just so you have it in hand, and then we'll see what happens on the 19th.
Sounds good.
Hopefully
Sounds
everyone stays
good.
healthy.
All right. Well, thank you for coming.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you on the 19th, and hopefully David doesn't send you an email telling you we have problem issues. So
Okay.
with that, we're moving on, and our agenda, I know it is complete, and we're just looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Have a second?
Second.
Second.
David Kaplan seconds. All right, David White and David Kaplan. So everybody just wave, and it looks like
And
it's
everybody have a great
unanimous.
vacation, those of you
Oh,
who
and
are
Sarah's joining the
going
commission.
away.
Nice.
Sorry.
All
I was
right.
saying goodbye.
Thanks, see you in 18.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night,
Thanks,
everybody.
Blaine.